Alright, and for now, make sure you guys are set on yelling. Obviously, when we're in the server and everybody's loading in and shit, we'll be on whisper, and we tend to stuff ourselves away in a corner somewhere so that nobody hears us talking. And then once they step off, we switch back to yelling, because there is times somewhat where we will use directional chat rather than radios. Although vast majority of the time, once the firefights really start going, you got to use radios. Hey now, Bert. You get me going. Alright, so go ahead and hop into the Zeus interface. So hit Y or wherever the fuck your hotkey is. Anytime you go into a Zeus slot, and if for some reason you hit Yankee to go into Zeus and it won't work, just respawn. It's a little finicky on permissions sometimes.
So top, that's not gonna work for me. Isn't there a way that you can make me Zeus on the module?
Yes, but we don't use that.
Okay, so I'll be back.
Alright. Up into Zeus here. So, while we're going through this, obviously, just like with anything else, if you guys have questions, you have to fucking ask them. Don't assume anything. Don't take anything for granted. If you have questions, ask. Be fucking inquisitive, i.e., why do we not use that Zeus module where you can make someone else a Zeus? The answer is because if you are the primary, you're in the server ahead of time and you've built your mission, when you use that module and put it on someone else, more often than not, it will fuck up the AI and they will start running all over the place or ungarrisoning or driving around or a bunch of other stupid shit. So do not ever use that module.
After that,
Alright, everybody got Zeus now?
Oh.
Yep.
Alright, so what I want you guys to do once you're in the Zeus interface, open your map and then look out towards the salt flats out there. Move your camera out there to where you see the objective marker. You just click your middle mouse button on the map. It'll move your camera around quickly. It's a quick way to get out to that area. And then I want you just kind of looking at that north end there where that objective marker is.
After that.
That's on.
Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to start on the units. On BlueFOR, we're going to go through each of the different fucking units, stuff we use, don't use, so on and so forth. So for BlueFOR, generally we don't really spawn down BlueFOR. Every once in a while. We'll be tasked with spawning some BlueFOR down for like base security and shit like that. But primarily the only stuff we're going to use out of here is if, say, Deco or 74th need a new airframe for whatever fucking reason, something happened to it or something, and they need a new one put down. Firstly, for Deco, where you would go to USA Army-W, which stands for Woodland, and then into helicopters, we'll use the AH-64 Echo Apache Guardian for, obviously, the Apache. Then we have the CH-47, there's only one Chinook, and then it's just the plain UH-60M for the Blackhawk. Now, when you spawn one of those down, you need to make sure down in the bottom right corner you click that Include Crew checkbox and turn that off so it spawns the vehicle empty. Alternatively, if you forget to do that and you put the vehicle down, each of you go ahead and put a fucking Blackhawk or a Chinook or something down with crew inside of it. Put it down around that fucking objective marker. So if you put one down that does have crew in it, it's not that big of a deal. If you click on the blue square at the top and hit golf, it'll pop them out. pop the crew out, then you can just click on the blue square again and delete them.
So why don't you delete them just right out the bird using the drop down on the left?
Because it's just as quick to click on the square and hit golf and then delete.
Huh.
But yes, you can delete them off the side. Why do I have a fucking vanilla Chinook down here on the ground?
You're talking about the Chinook?
That is not a Chinook.
That's the vanilla version of a Chinook, right? We're in U.S. Army Woodland helicopters. See where I'm talking about?
Oh, okay. So I just typed in Chinook in the search then. That's all I see.
Need to follow along with me every single step I am giving you. Don't try and shortcut shit. Don't try and figure it out on your own. Follow everything I am going through with you. All right?
Yeah, roger that. All
right. Go ahead and get rid of those. All right. Next thing out of there is going to be the gun trucks. Those are labeled under MRAP. The M1220s are fine. You know, if we're in a desert area, we'll use U.S. Army Desert, obviously, instead of Woodland. But you've got the different M1220 variants there. It really doesn't matter all that much. You know, we can use really any of the variations of the gun trucks, whether it be the 1220s, the 1230s, the 1232s, so on. It's not that big of a deal. But I just use the 1220s because they're at the top and they're easy to fucking see. Now the other one that we will use is, let's see if I can remember where the hell it's actually at. It's under cars. Trying to remember where the damn GCV is at. Actually, I think it might be under marine vehicles. Oh, where the hell did it go now? Alright, let me bounce back here.
How about the RG31 M2GC?
Yes.
U.S. Army Desert cars.
There we go. Oh yeah, it's only desert. Jesus. That's why I wasn't seeing it. Yeah, because there's only the desert variant of that. So yeah, U.S. Army Desert cars, third from the bottom, RG31 M2 GC, stands for Ground Command. So if we need a new GCV, that's where that comes from. And let's see. That's pretty much it out of there. Obviously, we don't spawn in any tanks or any shit like that unless, you know, we're doing something weird with the with AI, kind of like what we did was a couple weeks ago with the Elite Guard. But that's it for in there. Then we'll bounce down to the US SOCOM. Out of there, the only thing we grab is the AH-6M Little Bird. It's the very top Little Bird. That's the Lancer that they all use. So if you need a new Lancer, that's where that comes from. And then USAF planes A10 Alpha. Just the basic A10 Alpha at the very top. Doesn't need to be the AT or the cluster. Just the very basic A10. Right? Any questions so far?
Negative.
Negative.
All right. So let's move over to OPFOR. So very top faction there is our militia for the deployment. So for anti-air, we have the Tunguska and ZSU. Obviously, we're not using that stuff yet or anything like that. Then APC, we only have the one BTR, the BTR 70. Artillery, we only got the mortars, so on, so forth. You guys can kind of go through and look and see what each little individual thing is in there. But I want you to go down to the turrets, right? When placing turrets, it's primarily the cord, right? The tall one that's got the big fucking pedestal mount. When you're placing these on buildings like the big tall military tower things and shit like that, the thing you have to keep in mind is when you drag these turrets around, they are going to basically follow the curvature of the earth below the building. Okay, so what I mean is, if that tower is on a slope, then the gun, when you use Alt and drag it up into the air, it's going to be on a slope because it follows the curvature of the earth, not the fucking building itself. So you'll have to raise it just a little bit above where basically where the slant goes away, and you'll see the little blue box when it does that, and then you'll let it go and it'll kind of drop a couple feet down onto the surface of the building, and they'll wobble around quite a bit. Quite often they'll fall the fuck over. You just got to keep trying it until you can get it to fucking work properly. And yeah, when you place down a turret, remember to check the include crew box back on. So the rest of the factions in here, obviously we're not using right now, but Red 4 is always going to be hostile to Blue 4. Sometimes the Green 4 elements will be friendly to us and hostile to Red 4. Sometimes they'll be friendly to us, but also friendly to Red 4, so on and so forth. That's handled on a template side. We don't have to do anything with that. We're not going to do anything with that. We do have the ability to change the sides of groups, so we could change something like, say, a rifle squad. We could change them from Red 4 to Green 4, or from Red 4 to Blue 4, but it doesn't work all that well when you have the server loaded up. Basically, if you have a lot of troops down and a bunch of guys in the server and you use that module, it takes some time to switch every individual unit in that element, and sometimes it'll take long enough that they actually turn and start engaging each other if you're changing it from like Red 4 to Blue 4. So that's generally something we're never going to mess around with because it's going to be set up on the template. Now move over to the Green 4. We have the Elite Guard guys. Again, you can go through and look at the stuff, you know, on your own time. We're not going to talk about, you know, what all shit they have. Yep.
So all Red 4 is going to OPFOR, right? Is going to not engage each other. They're all friendly to each other.
Correct.
Okay. And they're hostile to everyone else?
Mm-hmm.
Every other color? Including civilians and the like?
Civilians, no. Civilians, nobody's hostile towards civilians. However, if you take a civilian and you arsenal them, put a weapon in their hands, they will engage OPFOR.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then once they engage OPFOR, light them the fuck up.
They're fucking evil.
So, yeah, basically the colors are always going to be friendly to themselves. So all Green 4 factions are going to be friendly to Green 4 factions. All Red 4 are going to be friendly to Red 4, so on and so forth. But like I said, there will be times where Green 4 will be friendly to us, but not be friendly to Red 4, or vice versa, you know, whatever.
The hostility decides is set up in template.
Say again?
The hostility decides was set up in template. We don't have to ever have to switch it on or off.
Yep.
So, you said no dumb questions, but this might be a dumb question. Why is FIA in both Blue 4 and OPFOR?
There's multiple factions that'll show up in both OPFOR and Green 4. It's basically dependent upon what you want to fucking fight. It's the same factions, they have, you know, all the same shit. Sometimes there will be small differences between some of their gear, maybe some of their vehicles that they have or stuff like that. But ultimately, it's, you know, how do you have your template set up? Do you want to fight green 4 or red 4?
Okay, right.
All right, so the rest of the stuff in green 4 we don't need to worry about. It's just the basic other factions over in the civilian. This stuff pretty fucking straightforward. We don't really spawn civilians all that much. Obviously because of server load, we want to keep, you know, the amount of basically non-relevant fucking AI to a minimum. That being said, when we do have civilians in the area, what I tend to like to do, so if you drop down one of the civilian things, just go to one of the things labeled men, it doesn't matter which one. So I will generally grab like 3 or 4, you know, sometimes even more, whatever. I'll just randomly fucking choose different civilians and shit and place a bunch of them down. And then I will go through and hold left control and click and select all of them, and then click and drag onto one guy and basically turn them all into one big ass group. And then I will garrison them so that they won't move and put them throughout the town. Other times I will put them on patrol. The only thing you have to keep in mind is basically all civilians should be either garrisoned somewhere in a building, essentially, you know, hiding, or on a patrol where they're visible, and then once gunfire starts, or even once elements move into town, then you can then they should basically break the patrol, run towards a set of buildings, and just stay there. Once they get into the buildings, you know, try and keep them there. But if they start moving around, just fucking delete them. I don't care if somebody sees it or not. A civilian randomly fucking disappearing is a hell of a lot better than like what we had with fucking last week with the goddamn civilian running in front of the gun truck. I cannot stand that shit. That's one of your big jobs as a Zeus when you have civilians in the area, is paying the fuck attention to those civilians, where they are, where they're moving, so on and so forth. Because if they're running in and out through our lines, within about 5 seconds of me seeing it, you're going to be getting a message from me asking you why in the fuck there are civilians running through our lines, or why are they running up to a heavily armed rifle squad, or why are they running in front of a bunch of goddamn gun trucks. I cannot stand that shit. So if you put civilians down, you're responsible for those motherfuckers, and if one of my gun trucks run them over, I'm going to be pissed off at you, not the guy that ran them over. Everybody clear on that?
Yep.
All right. So then obviously in the civilian stuff also, we got, you know, cars and shit like that. You can have cars that are driving around, but same with the rest of civilian shit. They should not be, you know, driving right up to some gun trucks unless there's some suicidal motherfuckers. Now the same goes if we are doing something where there's armed civilians in the area. That's fine. You can drop a civilian, put, you know, an arsenal on them, and, you know, have them running around with a Mosner or something as we're rolling into the area so we see them, or even, you know, somebody with an AK or something. That's perfectly fine. Makes total sense. Once bullets start flying, if that dude is out in, you know, our visible fucking range and he's got a rifle on him, he's going to get smoked. And I'm not going to be mad at our guys for it, because no reasonable fucking human being is going to walk out their front door with an AK-47 with the United States Army out there fucking in a gunfight and not expect to be shot. So keep that in mind. All right, if you got armed civilians in the area, gunfight breaks out, dump those fucking weapons. Remote control the guy, have him throw the rifle on the ground, fucking run into a house, throw it on the floor, whatever. But get rid of those goddamn weapons. Unless you want them to get shot. IDAP stuff, pretty straightforward. You know, if we're doing something with medical type shit, kind of, you know, WHO or UN type shit, we just kind of substitute that with IDAP at this point. All right, so then we have the empty category, which is everything. Here is where if you just want an empty fucking vehicle or something like that, you know specifically what you want, but you can't remember what faction has it or whatever, go to this empty tab, type in the search menu or search bar what it is you want, and it'll pull it up. You know, it's going to pull up a bunch of shit, everything with, you know, those letters in it. But yeah, this is where, like I said, if you can't remember what faction had like that particular BTR or whatever, type it in here, it'll pull all the shit up. Are you guys clear on everything so far?
Yeah, sounds good, Top.
Crystal.
All right, so let's move on to groups. So groups, BlueFOR, there isn't really anything in BlueFOR where we're going to spawn groups unless we are doing basically base security AI. If we want to, you know, spawn down a squad that's on patrol, then this is where we'll grab it from. But this is primarily where we're going to be spawning enemy AI from. So if you go into OPFOR, the OBS militia infantry squad, so we have pretty basic squad size element that we can put down. We also have a fire team. I personally am not a fan of using a fire team. It's pretty much useless for us. If I'm going to put down a fire team, I'm going to put down a squad. Now, when it comes to spawning these guys down, and we'll go over this a little bit more later, but if we are going to be garrisoning a town with quite a few guys, basically what we'll do in that situation is when you go to spawn the squad down, hold left control, and then just left click. And when you put them down, they'll automatically join the group that's right there, just like the guys that are running around now. So then you have just one big ass group rather than 3-4 individual squads. You have one massive group, and you can place that group in the center of the town, use the garrison command, and just garrison all those guys at once rather than, like I said, 3 or 4 individual squads. Which works very fucking well. Like I said, if you're going to be garrisoning, you know, 200 troops in a town, do it like that. So you're not having, you know, 20 fucking groups. You just got one. And then if you're going to do multiple towns, you know, say you have 2 or 3 villages, then you make that first group of, you know, 60 guys or so, garrison them, whatever, and then you select that group again by clicking the red diamond, Control C and Control V. Just copy and paste them. You don't have to, you know, go through control clicking each time. Just copy and paste the big ass group that you already have down. So that's the same for OPFOR and the green 4. Then next, over on the empty, this is where our compositions come from. Now, right now, we're not building anything composition-wise until Cap gives us approval to actually start fucking building shit again. That being said, we still don't have to build nearly as much now as what we used to. The S4 guys take care of a lot of the building shit for us because it's easier for them to build in Eden than what it is for us to build in Zeus. That being said, there's still maybe times where you end up having to throw a comp down for, you know, roadblocks or whatever. But the vast majority of the building at this point is handled by S4, which is fucking great for us. So I'm not going to go through each individual fucking composition in here. There's a fuck ton of them. There's some that I have that are kind of favorites of mine and so on. As you go through, you'll kind of learn which ones you like to use and which ones you don't like to use, so on and so forth. The one thing I want you guys to keep in mind when it comes to these compositions, use some common fucking sense. Okay? If we're in a terrain that is predominantly tan, then use shit with tan Hescos. If we're in a terrain where it's predominantly green, then use shit with green Hescos. You know, I don't want to see fucking sand-colored Hescos out in the middle of Tanoa. It doesn't make any sense. So just use a little common sense with the stuff. The other thing is with the compositions, see here, let me grab one of the ones that I like using. Okay, so the one I just put down there, the HQ, well, it's under military, and it is called military compound. It's under military HQ large military compound. I really, really like using this compound. It's pretty simple. There isn't much extra bullshit to it, so on and so forth. But I want you guys to kind of zoom in down to this compound and take a look at it. Anytime we place shit down, we need to be doing this, right? This extra stuff that, you know, looks cool, you know, the Connex boxes, the shitters, the boxes at the back of the building, so on. We delete all that shit. Yes, it makes the area look, you know, kind of empty and not lived in and so on, but we need to save on object count where we can. Does that shit really have an effect on the gameplay? No. Then we get the fuck rid of it. Then the next thing we're going to look at is just the fit and finish of everything on the compound. So if you look at the northwest corner there, you'll see that that bunker and that one wall don't really line up all that well. So we're going to grab that wall, pull it in there, get it lined up a little bit better, grab the bunker, get that pulled out to where it's going to line up a little bit better, so on. So shit like that, you have to go through, look at everything. All right, is it lined up? Yeah. Is there shit floating, so on? If there's issues, like obviously out here we're on a nice big flat surface, so it's fairly easy. But when you're building on, you know, slopes and stuff like that, what I'll do is once I place everything down, I'll go through and highlight the entire compound, and then I'll hold Alt and drag it down so that it snaps everything to the ground. So I don't have any fucking walls floating or Hescos floating or shit like that. I'm sure both of you guys have seen that happen before in an operation where you got to walk up to a compound and the goddamn Hescos are floating 3 feet in the air because Zeus wasn't doing his goddamn job properly and didn't check his goddamn work. So anytime you place down objects like this, you need to zoom around it in the camera, make sure you don't have anything floating, make sure all the buildings are fucking accessible, you know, none of the stairs are way up in the air, so on and so forth. Right, so what I want you to do real quick is go over to your modules, Zeus, add remove editable objects, and add that compound into your Zeus. So you can see all the little yellow dots.
Roger.
All done.
All right, so now that you guys can see all the little yellow dots, you know, obviously you can move that stuff around. Now, one of the main reasons that the primary Zeus is the guy that builds everything when stuff does need to be built is because when other people, other Zeus guys are moving objects, there's a bit of a delay between the object actually moving for them and it moving on your screen. And it can cause issues when two people are trying to build in the same fucking compound at the same time. So leave the building to one goddamn guy. Now, once everything is put down, you've checked it, you've gotten rid of all the extra bullshit, you know, fucking trash piles, tables, chairs, everything that doesn't either, you know, it's not mission critical, or it doesn't house troops, or it doesn't provide cover in some way, shape, or form, get the fuck rid of it. Once that's all done, then personally, I like to get rid of all the yellow dots. I hate seeing all those fucking yellow dots all over. They get in the way when you're trying to remote control shit, so on. They annoy the fuck out of me. So what I'll do is once the compound is done, I'm happy with it, then I'll go back into that Zeus module, add remove, and I'll remove everything from that area. Even if I already placed troops down, I'll remove everything in that area from my Zeus, because I can always add the troops back in on their own without adding all fucking objects. So I just do that to get rid of all the little yellow dots, because again, they annoy the shit out of me. All right.
Quick question, Top.
Yep.
When you're building on slopes, like you said, right, Alt and push it all the way down. Sometimes you have slopes that come through the bottom of these buildings.
Mm-hmm.
What's the bigger sin? A little bit of floating or a little bit of grass inside the building?
Buildings don't generally float. Most of these
Okay.
buildings you can raise up. So like if you take even that big white bastard,
Oh yeah.
if you
They're
take that and
usually
raise that
elevated.
up a little bit, yeah, there's like a little bit of concrete underneath it that it'll give you some wiggle room to lift it up. Same with the cargo houses and shit. It gives you a little bit to fucking work with. Yeah, see, so you can, you've raised that one roughly 3.5, 4 feet, and that's almost accessible. That bottom step is a little high, but someone could probably use the fucking uh, advanced movement to get up on those steps. I wouldn't be the motherfucker to be climbing up there. Be telling someone else to fucking do it, but yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to go that high. It's a little bit delayed for me right now.
Yeah, it's super delayed for me as well, by the way.
Yeah. So the next thing is, like I said, go ahead and remove all of these yellow dots, whether you like them or not. I don't give a shit for this next part. I want you guys to have them out of your Zeus interface.
Got it.
Hold on.
All right, so now what I want you guys to do is stand by here. Now I want you to use that add remove, and you are going to, this is something we do a lot. You're going to do add all objects in mission, type units, mode side, and then OPFOR. That's going to add in all of the OPFOR on the map. And we do this a lot. Now, primary doesn't have to do this because primary is the guy spawning shit in. However, if you're in a jam and you got to be quick, so on, and you need your secondaries to start spawning shit in for you, then you're going to have to do this. Every time new units are spawned in by someone else, you have to do the add remove to add those units into your Zeus. It's absolutely fucking vital. So both of you guys seeing the 2 squads of OPFOR sitting out there?
Got it.
Yep.
All right, so, and we're going to go over these modules more here in a minute, but I'm going to garrison these guys in these buildings real quick. All right, so now, boom, everybody's garrisoned in buildings. First thing that you guys should gravitate to when garrisoning compounds like this, or anything that has these little cargo houses, look at the 3 cargo houses on the west side of the compound. All 3 of them have a guy in the exact same position, that front right corner. We all know that's where that fucking guy goes. This is one of the easiest ways for me to spot someone that's lazy in Zeus, is when that guy is in that front right corner. Because I know goddamn well both of you have seen guys in that front right corner and seen their rifle clipping right through that fucking front wall. Sometimes they'll engage through it, sometimes they won't. It drives me fucking nuts when a Zeus does not fucking pay attention and go through and check all of his garrisoned units. It's annoying. You need to do that. Just like when you place down the objects for a composition, when you garrison troops, you need to fucking fly around and look at all those troops' positions. Right? If they're in those one of those cargo houses, pull them the fuck back off of that wall. But don't have one guy in every single one of those cargo houses. It's silly. It makes no sense. You can have, 1, 2, maybe even 3 guys in one, none for the next 2 or 3 down the row, and then maybe 2 guys in the next one. But I don't like having one single guy in each one of those cargo houses. It's silly to me. So I'll pull them out of those buildings and have them standing out front. I'll have 2 or 3 of them standing out in front of the building, looking like they're bullshitting basically. And then same goes for the rest of the garrison. Fly around, look at the guys, look at where they're placed, look at the angles they're covering, so on. If they're looking the wrong direction, hold shift, left click on them, and drag towards where you want him to look, and he'll turn and look that way. But go through and look at these guys that are garrisoned right now, see where they're at, and does it make sense? So on and so forth. The last one I'm going to point out is in that tall tower. That tall tower is is just like the cargo house and the little short command building the same way. When guys are close to those walls, they tend to fucking bug out and they'll clip right through them. So any of these like cargo style buildings, you see guys close to the walls, drag them off the wall, 2 or 3 feet. Even if you want them to be in that room, that's fine. But drag them off the wall a couple feet so that they don't clip through the goddamn wall. And, A, guys see them and know they're in there. Or B, they start goddamn engaging through the wall, which is obviously the worst option. Now, the other thing that you have to be aware of is with those tall towers, every so often, the guys on the upper floors will go prone. And sometimes they can actually clip through the floor slash ceiling of the level below them and fire through the floor. So when guys go into those tall towers, you need to kind of pay attention to that element for at least a little bit and see if any of those guys in the upper floors are prone. If they are, quickly double click the unit, tell him to stand up and get him up. If he won't stand up, remote control the fucker and stand him up yourself. But get him off of that floor so we're not taking the chance of him clipping through the floor and engaging somebody because, well, that's some bullshit.
Hey, Top, got a question.
Yep.
Go ahead, Toad.
No, I think you have the same question I do. Like rotating them, they keep rotating back.
Yeah, keep rotating backwards. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forget. I'm the primary, so they won't listen to you guys in terms of. I placed them down, so they won't listen to you guys in terms of where to face them. If you place units down, that's why we always have the primary spawn units, because sometimes the AI will listen to the commands of secondaries, but sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll, the like garrison commands and stuff like that will work on them. Sometimes they won't. It's very fucking finicky. So that's why the primary is the guy that always spawns the units in. Like I said, the only exception being is if, you're just being overwhelmed because the task force is moving super fucking quick and so on, and you just need to throw some bodies at them to slow them down, then you can have the secondary spawn in a squad or two and go at it. That being said, you have to be very careful, and the secondaries have to be careful, because when you spawn in, 2 squads, sometimes there'll be a little bit of a effect. You'll see a tiny little hitch, a quick little desync, and those of us that have been doing it for a while, we know, hey, Zeus just spawned something in. But if you tell us your secondaries like, hey, spawn in some troops to hit these guys real quick, and both of them spawn in 2 squads, well, now you just had an entire fucking platoon spawned in at once. That's where you have those instances where you see, a long 2-3 second fucking desync. That's because somebody spawned in too much shit too quickly. Anytime I'm in a mission where I have that happen, where the guy in front of me just runs in place for a solid 2 or 3 seconds, I instantly know Zeus just spawned in like a platoon worth of infantry, which obviously ruins the fucking surprise for me because I know he just spawned in a bunch of shit. All right. Was that the question that you had? You said it was, right, O'Halloran?
Yeah, we have the same question.
Okay. So any other questions in terms of garrisoning troops?
Can you once again just tell me which module it is? 'Cause there's a
We'll go over
right?
We'll go over that later. But the main thing I'm focused on here is understanding where the troops would go. All right, it has to make sense that someone would be in there. Another one, really good one to fucking piss me off, is putting a single individual in a goddamn Connex box. I hate that shit. Right, those cargo boxes are hot as fuck, especially in most of the places that we operate in. Nobody is going to hide in a goddamn sea can while an entire platoon of heavily armed troops move through and kill all of their buddies, wait until they're past them, and then pop out and shoot them in the ass, suicide style. It doesn't make any sense. Don't hide troops in a goddamn sea can. It's stupid. Same with, like, little tiny shacks. Like the little wooden shit shacks that we'll come across and stuff. Does it make sense for a guy to be in there by himself? I mean, what's he doing? Is he rubbing one out? Like, when you spawn troops in, your number one thought needs to be, how did they get there? Does it make sense for them to be there? If you don't have an answer to the first one, or the answer to the second one is no, then get the fuck rid of them. Delete them now. If you can't come up with a conceivable reason as to how they got there and why they are there, then they better not be there. That is rule number fucking 1 for you when it comes to bringing in troops. Any questions on that?
Negative.
Negative for me.
Excellent. Okay, who wants to learn about modules now?
Which module are we starting with?
Oh, we're starting at the top.
Ace AI. I love it.
Alright, so Ace AI. First one, defend area. Don't bother using it. It bugs out more than it fucking works. Garrison group. Don't use it. Bugs out more than it works. Global AI skill. Supposedly we don't need to use it anymore, so don't use it. Patrol area. Don't use it because it bugs out more often than it works. Search area. Guess what?
Same thing.
Bugs out more often than it works. See, search a nearby building. Same bullshit. Suicide bomber. We don't have to worry about that right now. Anyways, that is something you can play around with, and I highly recommend you do play around with that module and get comfortable with it. Even though we're not using it right now, it's still something nice to have in your bag. So,
does it actually work?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So
that's the only one so far that works.
Yeah. Well, the other ones work sometimes. Well, honestly, they work at a lower level. So, like at a squad size level, they tend to work more. But when the server is loaded really heavily, they tend to not work all that great. But let's take that Suicide Bomber module real quick and put it on a guy. Just pick any random guy, it doesn't matter. And you're going to see the menu pop up for it to edit Suicide Bomber. All right, so activation side, that's pretty easy. It's going to be blue 4 because we're fucking blue 4. Activation radius, roughly 10 meters is all right. That's fine. Explosion size is always going to be small for an S-Vest, right? Normal and large, those things are way too goddamn big for an S-Vest. Unless that dude's like a 500-pound professional wrestler and he's only 500 pounds because he's loaded down with 300 pounds of fucking HME. No. Small explosion size. Auto-seek, disable it. What auto-seek does is basically just has them run around the fucking AO on their own, just looking for blue 4, and when they see blue 4, they'll go running at them like a fucking maniac. I prefer the suicide bombers to be RC'd by secondary Zeus operators. Have them hiding in a building somewhere, have the secondary remote control them real quick, walk out there, try and get up as closely as he can to them, and then they'll blow up on their own. There's nothing they have to hit or anything like that. Once they get within 10 meters of them, after a couple seconds, they'll explode on their own. And that's it for the suicide bomber. Next one, suppressive fire, does work. Works very fucking well. I highly recommend it, although it did fail me like a motherfucker last week on Havoc 1's platoon training. For some reason, this BMP just wouldn't listen to the suppressive fire command. But if you put that suppressive fire on any one of those guys, you'll see the little red diamond pop up. You just drag that diamond to wherever you want them to suppress. Understand that it's always going to be locked on the ground, basically. You can't alt and drag it up into the air or anything like that. It's going to follow the terrain. But you take that red diamond out, put it on an area, and they'll start fucking engaging. Now...
No red diamond for some reason.
Do what?
Got no red diamond for some reason, which is weird. I've used it before, so I know what it does. It's just... That's a weird glitch I just found.
I wonder if we just put it on the same guy.
The guy in the bunker? The AK?
Nope, mine's in the tower. I don't know, that's weird. But anyways, the reason that I favor this suppressive fire is, one, they do it in a very realistic manner. So like you can hear, you know, they're firing in bursts. They don't just fucking, you know, spray it. And two, it does actually use ammunition. This module will cause the AI to actually have to reload. It will burn through the ammo that they have on them or with them, whatever, as opposed to the other suppressive fire module that doesn't. or at least it didn't used to, I should say. The other day I was dicking around with it. It used to be back in the day, if you use the other suppressive fire module and say you put it on like a turret, like a dishcum, and somebody shot the gunner off of it, the gun would just keep firing because the module was on it. That's no longer the case. So maybe it does use ammunition now. I don't know. But either way, I still prefer the ACE suppressive fire because it's just quick and easy. You know, it's 2 clicks, boom, he's going to start suppressing shit. Unless you're that asshole BMP the other day that didn't want to listen to me. Next one, toggle flashlights we don't use. Toggle NVGs we don't use. They toggle that shit automatically. Ungarrisoned group, you don't have to worry about that one because we'll use a different one. So, any questions on ACE AI?
Negative.
Negative.
All right, ACE Arsenal. That one's pretty simple. We don't really use it for official operations. But if there is a situation where just for whatever reason, you know, if say Cap or somebody tells you, hey, put down a box with a full arsenal, just throw down any fucking box, go into that, you know, empty category that we talked about earlier, type in supply or ammo or whatever, grab a box, throw it down, and then put that module on it, boom, it'll have a full ACE arsenal. ACE captive we will use if we have an HVI that we want to get captured. We don't want them to try and run away or whatever, or so on. We'll use toggle captive. Toggle surrender, it doesn't really matter at that point. If you're going to toggle them to surrender, you might as well toggle them captive and not waste our fucking time of having to zip the guy up. So just use toggle captive.
Can I just say something about that top?
Huh?
I usually like to toggle surrender because the hands are on their head, and so even from the window they can see that they're. If they only just see the HVT's head, they don't shoot him in the fucking face.
They shouldn't be shooting him anyways unless he's got a weapon on him.
I'm saying, like, I've seen multiple HVTs get popped in the head from windows that they can't see the rest of the body or see if they have a weapon or not.
That's great. I'm not here to make their job easier. We're the enemy.
True.
I mean, granted, us putting somebody as captive is technically making their goddamn job easier, but at the same time, if they can't PID a goddamn target, and we were supposed to take the guy alive, and they kill him because they didn't look for a weapon first, that's mission failure on their part.
True.
Quick question about that. Is there ever an instance in which we pretend to surrender, and then they walk in the room, and then we unsurrender them and just start shooting? Or is it always going to be one or the other?
If you can pull that off, if you can get out of the surrender animation, pull a pistol from your magical fucking prison pocket and get a round off before someone dumps half a mag of 5.56 into you, more power to you.
Like if they don't check us or something like that, they escort us back to,
They're not going to escort you anywhere without zipping you.
Oh,
you can't pull a weapon if you're zip cuffed.
Right. Okay.
We've had that happen where dumbasses didn't search someone and they had a pistol on them. But yeah, you can't pull a weapon if you're zip cuffed. All right, next part, Ace Medical. We talked about this the other night, when we were talking about the Zeus stuff that we went over in the meeting. The only thing that we will use in here in terms of healing is full heal. We only do that if, guys are down due to a bug or, like I said, something that we unintentionally cause as Zeus. If a large amount of guys are injured because, we accidentally fucking spawned a squad of infantry inside their formation or something like that, or right directly in front of them, so on, they get fucked. It's our fault. We'll take care of it. Ace heal them real quick. The other thing that we will use in here sometimes is injury. If we have, say, civilians or friendly forces that we want them to push in and provide medical aid to, we'll use that injury module to, have them sustain multiple injuries or something, and so on. Then they push in, heal them, good to go. But that's all we'll use in there is those two modules. The assigned medic and shit like that, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Ace repair, we don't use anything in there. Ace utility, we don't use anything in there. AI behavior, right? First one, ambient animation. I like using these, however, you have to stay on top of things when you are using these. The ambient animations are really good for, say we have prisoners or something like that. You can use the cowering, or actually I think there's a prisoner animation where like they're seated and they have their hands cuffed behind them basically. Or like for civilians, I like to use the cowering in fear type thing. When you put that module on someone, go ahead and put that ambient animation module on someone, you'll see the bottom drop down says combat ready. Always turn that off. Always, always, always turn that off. If you leave that true, if that AI goes into combat mode, which is guaranteed if we're in the area because bullets are going to be flying, then they'll drop out of that animation and start fucking running around like maniac. So always turn that off. If it's guys that, like civilians that have been captured or whatever, we're there to free them, whatever the situation may be, and you have them in that animation where their hands are cuffed behind their back and they're seated, before you put this ambient animation module back on them and use that stop animation, use that ace captive, set them to captive, and then stop animation, and then you're good to go. It'll pull them out of that animation, they won't be seated on the ground anymore, and then we can actually move them around. All right, any questions on that?
Negative.
Oh yeah, in Ace Utility, we will sometimes use the add remove fries for the helicopter. That's what gives us the fast roping shit. But that's very rare. And even then, I think all 3 times that I've tried using it, it didn't fucking work. All right. Change abilities.
Is there a reason why you don't use the teleport players in there? Because it has the search function.
No, just because I use the players one just because that's what I'm used to. I haven't really dicked around with the teleport players one in there since I added it in.
That's pretty much what I've always used, bread and butter.
Yeah, it's fine. If that's what you want to use, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to say you're not allowed to use it. I just use the normal one because it's what I'm comfortable with.
Yep, just want to make sure there wasn't like some bug I've never experienced.
No, I mean, not that I know of. Like I said, I don't use it, so I'm not 100% sure. All right, so continuing on with AI behavior, change abilities, we don't need to use. Change altitude, we don't need to use. Chatter, we don't need to use. Garrison building instant, that's the one we use. So when we want to garrison troops, we'll put that on a guy. Go ahead and do that now if you want. Radius, however big the radius we want it to be. Inside only. Generally, I put no on that because I want guys, all over the place. And I'll usually put fill evenly. Now, the reason that I do fill evenly, even though I don't want one individual guy in each fucking building, is because I don't want 26 fucking guys in a shack. So I'll put fill evenly, and then it allows me to kind of spread the guys around a little bit quicker and easier rather than everybody going into one building. Now, that being said, if, say, for example, you're setting up a roadblock, and that roadblock only has one of those cargo watchtowers, I think they're called. You can still garrison troops. You can garrison troops out in the middle of this wide open fucking salt flats. You put the module on them, hit OK, it'll say, not enough spaces or something like that. That's fine. It'll make the little buzzing sound. But what that's for, basically why you are garrisoning troops, isn't just to have guys indoors. It's to have them stationary, so they're not moving and running all over the place. Because once you garrison a unit, it will not fucking move from that position until you ungarrison it. So if you're setting up a roadblock and you want guys set up in a defensive posture and you don't want them running all over the place if they get engaged, garrison them even out in the open, and then just drag them and place them where you want them around that roadblock, and they will not fucking move, and let them. Next one, have a seat. We don't use. Patrol loiter is what I use for my patrols. When you put patrol loiter on an infantry element, it's just going to have them walk in a circle. I will move the waypoints around. You can just grab the waypoints and move them wherever the fuck you want to. So I'll move the waypoints around so it's not just a plain circle. because it's very obvious, you know, when guys are just slowly walking around on that patrol route. You know, when guys use that patrol loiter, it always just does a circle, and after a few years of seeing guys walk in a circle, you know, all right, yeah, they're on a basic 100-meter patrol. They'll be back around here in about 30 seconds or so. Okay, we can go ahead and move now because their back is to us and they are not going to fucking turn around. Yeah, fuck that. I move the points all over the place so they don't know whether they're going to turn around or not. I'll have patrols overlap each other for that reason. So don't be afraid to move those waypoints around. Next one, search and garrison building. Don't use it. Search building. Don't use it. Set suicide bomber. We can also use this one. It works the exact same way as the other one. They're both effective. They both work fine. The patrol radius on this one is basically like the auto search function or whatever on the other one. But this just means he'll stay in a 100-meter area. He'll walk around in a 100-meter patrol area. If he sees blue 4, he'll go after him. That's the only difference. And then the reason that I prefer this one over the other one is that it has the vest option already there. You don't have to go in and arsenal the guy and find the fucking brown vest and put it on him. This already has it. Add vest. Yes. Boom. You're completely done. You don't have to worry about it. So that's why I'll generally choose this one over any of the other ones. If you don't want him to move, then just set the patrol radius to 0 and he won't fucking move. Or garrison the guy and he's not going to move. Like I said, I prefer to have, you know, the other Zeus operator remote the guy. So this is the one that I prefer using for setting a suicide bomber up. Like I said, you don't have to worry about finding the fucking vest and putting it on him or potentially getting it wrong, whatever. Surrender unit, you know, you can use that one or you can use the ace captive. But again, if you're going to surrender someone, you might as well just fucking zip them. And then ungarrison. Now, ungarrison is something that I like using purely because of the mindset of most guys that play, because they know how garrisoning works. They know that when a unit is garrisoned, they won't fucking move. They will not come out of that building. So they think they're safe outside that building. I hate that. I don't like that guys will drop their security on a fucking door because they know the AI won't come out that door at them. Fuck that. But the thing you have to keep in mind is if you garrison the town with 200 troops and you hit ungarrison on one of them, it ungarrisons all of them. So you have to be careful about that. Usually if I'm going to ungarrison troops, I'll wait until, you know, there's 8, 9, 10 guys left in the group, and then I'll ungarrison them and let them come running outdoors and shit like that. That being said, another thing you have to be careful of is oftentimes when you ungarrison AI, they will either phase right through walls or right through fucking doors. So keep that in mind. If you catch that happening, if you see an AI just phase through a wall and just smoke somebody, just delete the fucking AI. If somebody hasn't already killed them, ace heal the guy, because obviously someone cannot phase through walls and shoot them. Same thing with like doors. If, you know, they're sitting there covering the door and the guy just phases through and he snapshots them, heal the guy. That's not his fault. He would have seen the door open, would have had more time to react, so on. That's just the AI being an asshole. So keep an eye on that when you ungarrison stuff. See if they phase through the wall and fuck somebody up.
Top, is there a way to ungarrison like one individual at a time?
Yep, if you break him out of the group, so if you hold control, left click on the unit and then drag away. Not the whole group, just the individual.
The leader, it also does that.
Yeah.
You gotta pick like another guy besides the leader of the group. So anybody without the diamond on his head.
Yep, so you just hold control, left click, drag away, and then boom,
Okay.
you'll make them into an individual group. Now, the other thing, like what you just did there, ungrouping that whole group, that is one of the really good ways to get a squad fucking moving. When the AI stops listening and they won't fucking move forward, or you tell them to go one direction and they start running the opposite direction, if you ungroup off the leader and make them all into individual units, they'll start fucking moving. They will start listening to your orders. That being said, you have to be careful. If you ungroup too large of a unit, it will crash out your fucking computer. Doesn't matter how badass your computer is, it'll crash it out. Generally, I like to keep it around roughly a squad, like 10 to 12 guys is about as far as I'll push it, or 10 to 12 units is about as far as I'll push it in terms of ungrouping all of them and making them individual units. If it's anything more than that, then I'll grab a couple individually, I'll control click like 3 or 4 of them and drag them off and make them into individual groups, and then I'll do the big group. But generally what I'll do, if I'm just spawning in troops, like on the backside of a hill or something, just to send a squad at them, then I will place down a squad and I will immediately click and drag and break that group up and then issue the order to go in. So I don't have to wait for them to go all retard and then break them up. I just do it right away. As soon as I put the squad down, I break the group up, issue the order to go in, spread their waypoints out a little bit so they're not all funneling towards one exact position, and then you're good to go.
Does that hurt your group count, Top?
Yes, it does go against your unit count.
And when they die, do they still count? That was my one question about group count, is whether or not KAs count.
As in, like, does it...
Like a dead guy, because you see, like, if you kill the guy that he did Alpha 1-6, right, it still shows him as Alpha 1-6 group and now under civilians.
Yeah, but even if you delete him, it still goes against your overall unit cap.
Gotcha. Okay.
It doesn't double because they, are dead now, but it still goes against your overall unit cap.
Copy.
But that's one of the reasons that I like, especially if we're doing something with a lot of fucking AI that are going to be down a big town or whatever. That's one of the reasons I like putting down 3-4 squads in one group, because that gives me a lot of headroom on unit cap and shit like that. I'm not going to put down 30 individual guys because I want them placed just right and I want them to be able to move individually and shit. No, I'll place down one group of 30 guys and garrison the guys, place them where I want them. If I want them controlled individually, I got 2 guys at my beck and call that I can tell to remote control anybody whenever the fuck I want. So move on to the next part here. Animals, don't use anything in there. Arsenal, don't use anything in there anymore since we don't use the fucking Bohemia arsenal. Audio, don't use anything in there. Buildings, the toggle lamps we could potentially use. If it's a nighttime mission and we want to say that the fucking power got knocked out to the village or whatever, then you can use that toggle lamps and shut them off. In terms of locking doors, we don't lock doors until we have a way to fucking breach a locked door. We don't lock doors. All right, development tools. So there's 2 things in here that we will use, at least as primary Zeus operators, fairly frequently. And that is copy mission SQF and execute code module. Or maybe not frequently, especially not now that we don't have to do near as much building. But if, say, we had built this area up that we're looking at right now to use in a mission, but we built it on Friday because that was the day that we had open to build the mission. And we don't have time to be in the server Sunday night, 2-3 hours before the mission starts. So we build the mission Friday. You take that copy mission SQF module, place that down. Range, never do entire map. Because if you do entire map, it's going to snatch the stuff that's back at our air base or whatever. And when you get to the end of this, yeah, it'll paste down double shit and it'll be a nightmare. So generally what I'll do is 2 clicks. if my AO is bigger than 2 clicks, I'm not building all of that out at once anyways. So I'll usually do 2 clicks, include AI, yes, include empty vehicles, yes, include objects, yes, include markers, no, because we don't place markers down. So then when you hit OK, it'll come up with that long ass fucking code. Just drag or click and drag through that, then hit Control C, copy it, open your fucking notepad, clipboard, whatever, Control V and paste it in there. Then the next day or whatever, when you're going to be doing the mission, you would then use the execute code module, place that down, mode is local, and then paste that code into there and hit OK. Now that'll place down all the objects, all the AI that you had down, and so on. However, any AI that you had garrisoned will now be ungarrisoned. So keep that in mind when you're building your mission. Don't bother going through spending a ton of time garrisoning all your troops and shit, because that's all going to get thrown out the fucking window when you put this code down. They will ungarrison. Patrols will maintain their patrol route, which is nice, I guess, but garrisons will ungarrison. So just keep that in mind. This is, like I said, we don't have to use it as commonly nowadays because we don't have to do as much building. So we don't have to worry about, hell, I got to build this entire fucking COP, so on and so forth. I don't have time to do it Sunday, so I'm going to build it up Friday night and just use the code module, and then boom, I'm done. It's all placed down. So we don't have to worry about it near as much now. But still, if you build stuff ahead of time, use this. The other thing is, even when you use this code, even though it copies its exact position and stuff, even with objects, like all these M walls and shit like this, it will sometimes shift them slightly, raise them up into the air slightly, or so on. So, like with anything else, you got to check its positioning. Now, everything that it places down, you have to get added into your Zeus. So all the troops, you'll have to add into your Zeus. All the objects, you'll have to add into Zeus, so that if something does need to be moved, you can see the little yellow dot and move it around. Obviously, once you have it in place, just like normal, you can get rid of the yellow dots. But you have to add everything that was in that code back into your Zeus interface so you can actually see all of it.
Top, I had a question, and I think it is crossed my mind just now. Did a patrol use the AI behavior one, patrol loiter? Is there an advantage to using that over just control shift clicking, right, to set up a route?
Yeah. The like doing the control shift click, sometimes that will bug out and put a waypoint in the bottom left corner of the map. Sometimes they'll just stop walking and the waypoints disappear. Not often, but sometimes I've had it happen. And that becomes a bit of a pain in the ass when you're, 20 minutes into a mission and realize that you have a patrol that's 3 clicks outside of the AO because they stopped fucking moving and they never seen the enemy. So I go with tried and true.
Copy. And I have another question, because I've never used it. The patrol loiter, do they automatically move from walking to
nope,
run?
You got to do that on your own.
We have to do that on your own? Okay.
Yep. Basically, once the gunfire starts, you got to remember to double click that diamond, set them to aware, running, so on, and send them after their fucking game.
Copy.
All right, so that's it for development tools. You guys clear on how the mission SQF and code module thing works?
Copy.
Pretty much. One quick question, and I think I know the answers, but nonetheless I'll ask. When we execute the code module for only the SQF that we have locally, right? That's not going to affect anything back at base. Right?
Provided you didn't copy the entire map into the SQF, correct?
Right, but we are deleting the code that was in there already and replacing it with only the local. So logically, it would seem to me that we would get rid of it, but I guess not.
No, it doesn't delete anything. It just adds to it.
Yeah, right, there's no code to delete. When you hit that execute code module, that box is just going to be blank. When you do it in the same session, if you copy mission SQF and then immediately put down the execute code module, the code is already going to be there because you're in the same session.
Oh, okay, that's
right.
I thought about that then.
Yeah, okay. But obviously, you're not generally going to use that, those two modules in the same session.
Right. Okay.
All right, so move on to environment. Advanced weather change, that's the weather thing that we use. The regular weather one, meh. So advanced weather change, go ahead and put that module down real quick. We'll go through what this shit does. So transition is always going to be immediate because we're going to set the weather up before everybody's in there. So transition immediate. Overcast, unless we want it raining, it needs to be 49% or below. Right? Once you go over 50%, then it's going to rain. If we want it raining, crank it over 50%, wherever the fuck you want it to go. Torrential downpour, I don't give a shit until Captain yells at you that it's raining too goddamn hard and you can't hear anything, and then you gotta back it down. Lightning is what it is. Rainbow, I don't fucking care. Just leave it where it always is. Wind speed, we leave it 0. The reason that we leave wind speed at 0 is because our rounds experience deflection due to wind. The AI doesn't. So we don't. The cap's not okay with purposely putting us at a disadvantage that the AI doesn't have, in the sense that their rounds cannot be affected by the wind. Waves don't matter. Fog setting and fog decay, fog altitude, so on. If we're going to have a really foggy mission and so on, just like with anything else that you guys are going to do, it needs to make sense. Okay? I don't want to see fucking thick, palpable goddamn fog when it's a sunny, clear day and looks like it's 70 degrees, partly cloudy out. If it's fog so goddamn thick that I can barely see my hand in front of my face, it better be overcast and rainy as a motherfucker. So make sure it makes sense. Rule number 1. Earthquake, obviously we don't use post-processing. Do not use fucking ever. Say again?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt while you're going through it, but real quick on the weather. We decide, well, we as in Zeus decide that, right? Or is that the task force commander that decides the weather?
Yeah, we decide it, unless, like I said, Cap says no, get rid of the fucking rain. In which case, get rid of the fucking rain. I don't give a shit what you had planned for your beautiful mission. Get rid of the fucking rain.
Okay.
Set date. The only time we're going to use set date is if we need a full moon or no moon. Okay, so if you take that set date module and put it down real quick, and you go to the actual date drop down box, which is going to be the top right one, and you scroll down through there, you'll see where it has the lowest amount of moon as well as a full moon. So the reason in which we'll use that is if we want a nice bright night sky, and kind of give the AI, if they don't have NVGs, give the AI at least a bit of a fighting chance, we'll make it a full moon. So that there's tons of light out there. It's kind of on that border of, do I need NVGs? Do I not need NVGs? So on. It at least gives the AI a bit of a chance.
Top, just so you know, that glitches out for me. I don't actually, it doesn't pop up.
What's that?
This set date.
Oh, try it again. It might not have popped up because I had one down.
Oh, so you can only do one at a time. Okay. All right, now it works.
Yeah. Some modules and stuff, you can only have one down at a time, which obviously isn't a big deal when you're the primary because you're the one doing all this shit, but makes it a little bit more difficult for teaching it. So yeah, like I said, the only thing we're going to do in there in terms of set date is just the moon cycle. That's it. And then skip time. Obviously, we use skip time to set the fucking time on the server. Generally, the task force commander will let you know what time they want it to be. And then time acceleration. So time acceleration we'll use at the start of like when everybody's loading in, we'll put down that time acceleration, drop it to 0, so that time doesn't move while everybody's loading in. So if we want it to be an early morning mission, fucking 5 a.m. or something, we don't want it to be, sun all the way up by the time everybody gets loaded in. So we'll use that time acceleration to drop it down. And then we will move it back up to 1x once everybody's ready to step off, basically. Don't forget to move the time acceleration back up. If you don't, it's going to fuck up our Blue Force tracker markers, because remember, Blue Force works off of in-game time. So if you freeze that to 0, all the Blue Force markers are going to have the exact same fucking number on them, which isn't too huge of a deal because you can still use grid coordinates and so on and so forth to reference which one you're talking about, but it's making something a pain in the dick that shouldn't be a pain in the dick. So just keep that in mind. Don't forget to reset the time acceleration. I've done it a lot. Don't forget. All right, next one, equipment. Add NVDs. It's fucking nods. That we will use sometimes. If we're going to go up against an enemy that we want to have night vision goggles, you can just place that module down anywhere on the fucking map. Mode is going to be side, OPFOR, NVD, tactical light IR, unchanged. Only ever put NVGs on OPFOR or green 4. Do not ever select blue 4. If you do, it will replace our fucking NVGs with the vanilla NVGs. Do not ever select blue 4 in this option. Like I said, it'll automatically replace our fucking night vision goggles. Next, add remove turret optics, we don't use. Attach detach effect, we don't use. And toggle tactical light IR laser, we don't use. So then we have fire support. This is where it gets fun. Okay. The top 3 modules, those are what basically is referred to as our Michael Bay shit. Okay. Those 3 modules will never be used to accurately engage targets. And if I ever catch someone doing it, they will be fired fucking immediately, no questions asked. You guys can go ahead and, dick around with those modules a little bit and see how they work. It just throws a ring on the ground, shows you the blast radius of whatever it is you're firing and so on. Obviously, you can make it incredibly accurate because you can drop it exactly where you want to. This is how mortars used to be fucking dropped on us. It will never happen again. What this is used for, like I said, is Michael Bay shit. So if, say, we were defending this compound here, and I wanted to basically give the guys a cool experience, then I would hold left control and just left click mortars around the place. So they would land outside the fucking walls and not cause any harm. Oh, that guy got smoked by fucking shrapnel. A couple of them did, which does happen. Guys will get, wounded, but it's not going to knock them out generally. But that is the only thing those modules are going to be used for, is just the experience of, holy fuck, we got artillery incoming or whatever. Or if you're unlucky like me and you try to make an extract look cool and you end up shooting down a helicopter with a fucking mortar. It wasn't on purpose. Advanced cast we don't use. Artillery fire mission is only going to be used if you are Zeusing solo. Okay, that is the only time I am okay with someone using the artillery fire mission module, is if you are by your goddamn self and you don't have time to remote control an AI mortarman to fire it yourself. So the way that's going to work is second from the bottom, above suppressive fire, you have create target. Take that module, place it down, be named Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, however many targets you have down. Once you have that target down, you will then take that artillery fire mission module and place it next to or on top of whatever pieces you want to engage. If you've got a battery of 3 guns that are set up, you just place it in the center of those 3 guns. It'll automatically recognize, if you got 3 D30 sitting there, or 3 mortar tubes, whatever, it'll automatically recognize that there's 3 indirect fire units there. So then you go through, it's a very fucking simple interface basically to use. The first one will just say, Podnos or, D30, whatever. And then the second drop down menu will say marker, leave that alone, hit OK. Then you're going to select how many units you want firing. So 3, how many rounds you want them to fire, what type of munitions you want them to fire, what target you want them to engage. You're going to select either Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, whichever target you want them to engage. And then you have the round dispersion. I usually set mine at 100 meters. Now, the reason that I set mine at 100 meters is because, unlike Havoc 4, I don't like my rounds landing directly on top of each other. I like fucking dispersion. Most mortars that you're going to see firing, or especially big ass fucking artillery rounds, you got to remember the splash radius on that shit minimum is going to be 30 meters. That's over 90 feet. If you break down a single six-digit grid, that's 100 square meters. If you're putting it across the face of one grid, 3 mortars cover the entire face of one grid. So if you have them fixed within a 6-digit grid, 9 mortars can take out everything in that entire fucking grid. 9 mortars can clear a 100-meter kill box. So keep your dispersion at a reasonable fucking level. You know, anywhere from 75 to 100 meters is okay. Now, granted, there will still be rounds that will land right on top of each other because ArmA says fuck you, but keep your dispersion up there in terms of numbers a little bit. You don't want all fucking rounds landing on top of each other. So that's how the artillery fire mission works. Like I said, the only time you're going to be using that is if you're on your own. Otherwise, one of the secondary operators or even yourself, I'm fine with you doing it yourself if you are experienced with the artillery computer, but someone needs to be actually remote controlling the AI that is on that mortar using the artillery computer the exact same way that Havoc 4 does, and preferably you have another fucking Zeus operator and an AI spotting those rounds for you, talking to you on the radio. If you go back and watch Task Force Alpha's Zeus, when me and Caldwell were the 2 secondary Zeus operators, you'll see that's exactly what we're doing. Me and him have done that a lot together. I fire the rounds, he spots the rounds. If for some reason one of the other guys cannot remote control and spot those rounds for you, it's okay. Still use the Zeus operator, or sorry, use the artillery computer, but there has to be AI with legitimate eyes on, or just had eyes on that enemy position that you're about to engage. You will not use your fucking Zeus knowledge of having an overhead view to accurately fire mortars on someone. If I see that happen and see that there was no AI that had any way of possibly knowing that they were there, and see that you engage those guys with mortars, I'm going to lose my shit. Someone has to have eyes on them, or very recently have had eyes on them to be able to do that. All right?
Copy.
Copy that.
All right. Next one down, atomic bomb. Obviously, we don't fucking use. None of the cast stuff we use. Then create target. We already talked about that. You'll use that for the artillery fire missions. And then there's that suppressive fire module, which, like I said, has obviously been revamped since I stopped using it, but I still prefer the Ace one, because the Ace one, you don't have to set up the fucking target and go through the whole interface and tell it which target to hit and so on and so forth. It's 2 fucking clicks. It's way easier, way quicker. So I don't bother with the suppressive fire module. All right, any questions on any of the fire support stuff?
Negative.
One quick clarification. For the artillery fire mission, you have to do that every single time, right? You want them to fire. It's
Yes.
not like an iterative thing. Okay.
Nope.
You can also have them like throw out 50 fucking rounds till they're empty.
Yeah. The suppressive fire module also works on mortars and artillery and stuff. Just keep in mind, that's going to be a hellacious amount of fire that comes down, because they're going to send a lot of rounds downrange, and they're going to land right where you fucking put it. So just keep that in mind. The last thing I'm going to point out on the mortars before we move on to the next section, or really any indirect fire weapon systems, once we get close to them, or once, you know, friendlies get close to them, dismount those fucking mortars. Abandon them. Do not leave the AI on those mortars, because if the AI gets eyes on Blue 4, like direct line of sight on them, they will start sending rounds on their own, and their fucking their limit in terms of engagement range is close as fuck. They can literally drop mortars pretty much right on top of their head. I have watched mortar crews kill themselves with their own mortars trying to fire danger close on Blue 4. So once Blue 4 get close, dismount those fucking mortars, because if they start opening up on their own, it's going to be a shit ton of rounds. They're going to be laser goddamn accurate, and they will decimate anybody that gets close to them. So dismount those tubes if you fuck up and you don't see it in time, you don't notice that the Blue 4 fucking flanked around and they got up close to him and the rounds went off and you see a bunch of guys get fucked up, guess what? That's a situation where you're going to use the fucking ace heal, because in reality, no mortar crew is going to be fucking engaging that close. If they're 150, 200 meters out there and the AI see them and miraculously engage, then that's fine. That makes sense. But if they're 50 meters away and the concussion of their own rounds would have fucking knocked them out, then you need to fucking ace heal the guys. And also dismount the goddamn mortars. All right. Next part, objectives. We don't do anything in there. Objects. This is where we will use the create IED as well as the equip with IED jammer. So if we got the trucks with us and we're going to use the Duke systems, then we'll equip IED jammer on the trucks that we're taking out. The create IED is very simple, and I'll show you kind of the system that we work with that here in a minute. The top one there, attached to, we used to use, and I actually tried to use last week, and apparently it's not working as well as it used to. But we used to use that attached to put mortar tubes and shit like that in the back of trucks, like they actually do. They'll put a fucking single mortar tube in the back of a fucking Tundra or something, and use that as a mobile fucking platform. Now, however, it's not working. If you try to move the truck with the mortar tube attached in the back, it'll actually destroy the truck. So, yeah, that option is kind of out the window. Enable, disable simulation, we're really not going to use. Hide objects. Hide objects we're really not going to use if, we want something to be quote-unquote hidden. We just don't spawn it yet. It's that simple. Make invincible, we're not going to use in official operations. And then rotate objects you don't need because you have shift that you can rotate stuff with. Transfer ownership, we're also not going to use. So really the only thing that you're going to be using in here is the create IED and equip with IED jammer. But the create IED has to go in conjunction with something else. So we're going to skip real quick down to spawn. Go under spawn and then mines and explosives. Go ahead and put that module down. We're not going to spawn a goddamn minefield. We're going to use explosives and then go down, pick any one of the IEDs. Doesn't matter. Large, IED, urban is the first one there on the list, and hit OK. Now, that IED will do nothing unless you click on it and hit end, and then it'll explode. But as it sits right now, it will not do anything because it's not a pressure plate IED. Pressure plate ones are specifically marked out as a pressure plate. Now, once you have that IED down, now you can go to that create IED module and objects, place that on the IED. Set your explosion size. If it's a large IED, set the explosion size to large. Explosion effect, deadly. Can be disarmed. No. Why does it set to no? Because we're not fucking EOD. We can't disarm it anyway, so there's no sense in setting it to be possibly disarmed. Activation type, proximity. The manual and the radio, if we're going to do manual or radio detonation, you just click end on the fucking thing and it's the same effect. That being said, if they have Dukes, you can't set it off by fucking radio. Manual has to be some type of physical switch, so there has to be someone standing there, and a Duke can't jam a physical switch. So just stick with proximity. Because a Duke, the create IED jammer, will jam the proximity thing. It basically turns it into radio. So is jammable? Yes. Make sure that's fucking selected. Activation distance, 10 meters is fine. Activation side is always going to be blue. All right. Any questions on that?
I don't think so. I think that makes sense. Can I just blow it up just to see what it looks like? I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
Even more fun if you send someone over it.
Cool.
And then obviously, there's There's other stuff that can be done. You know, if you want to create a V bed, again with the attach thing being broken, what I used to like to do was to just grab an off-road and put like a barrel, or you know, one of the pallets of 4 barrels with the cargo net around it in the bed of the truck and just attach it to the truck, so it was some type of visual representation to the guys. Hey, that's a fucking V bed, you know, it's got barrels of HME in the back of it, so on. Now with the attach to not working that well with a moving vehicle, it's not really an option. That being said, generally what we will do for a V bed is we will actually spawn a guy down, we'll arsenal him, put a couple of like M112s in his inventory, just because it's something quick that we're used to working with, as well as a clacker. And you can actually crawl underneath the truck and place the demolitions, like attach them to the bottom side of the truck, and then hop back in, and then the explosives are on a detonator. So you can drive, you know, towards the friendlies and have your fucking ace interact open, and once you get close, boom, hit your clacker and it goes off. And obviously it's not a dead man switch, because if they shoot your ass, you're not going to be able to set the clacker off. So that works pretty well for V-beds. It just obviously takes a second to get set up, but that's something you would set up ahead of time. Obviously you're not going to do that in the middle of a mission. All right, so that's it for objects. Players, change side of player, like I said, we really don't have to deal with that. Create teleporter, we can turn any object into a teleporter, you know, like we do with all the flags and stuff. That's very simple. Punishment, obviously we don't use unless I want to fuck with somebody. Set radio frequencies, we don't use, and then teleport, very simple. I'm not unsure if the Ace Teleport has the group teleport function, but I know...
It does.
Okay, it does. But that is very handy for us as Zeus. So if we need to teleport in closer because our radios are losing range, you can place down that teleport module, mode, group, and Ares. And that'll teleport everyone within the Ares group in that role selection. So I just teleported all of us close out here to fucking Salt Flats. If you need to teleport individual troopers, then mode, players, it's always going to go alphabetically. Makes it simple. If you're doing a tech insert, say someone DC'd, and you need to, like, say you get a request up, hey, we need a tech insert for Ven. They're not always going to tell you where they're going. Even though they've been told before, you know, hey, when you send up a tech insert, tell us where you're going. They're not going to tell you always where they're going. Some guys don't give a shit. I don't give a shit whether they tell me where they're going or not, because I can figure it out. So what you would do is when you get a request for a tech insert, do the add remove units, add blue 4 so you can get that person back into your blue 4. Look at your unit list over on the left, see what fucking group they're in. Okay, it's, you know, Ben, all right, he's going to be fucking 2-1. Click on 2-1, hit Foxtrot, and that'll automatically move your camera to what you have selected. See, all right, there's 2-1. Put down the teleport module, mode, player, you'll hit F-Sergeant Van, boom, hit OK. He's teleported out there, and he's back with his fucking squad. All right, fairly simple.
Very simple. Like, I didn't know that one actually allowed you to zoom to groups and stuff.
Well, that's not from the module. That's just from... You can move to anything that you select. If you select something and you hit Foxtrot, it'll move your camera to it.
Yep. I never knew it was the thing.
Mm-hmm. How I bounce around the map quickly. You can also do a snapshotting thing where you can, like, snapshot your AO and just hit a hotkey and bounce back to your AO, but for me, it's just as easy to fucking select something in the AO and just hit Foxtrot and then zoom out.
Copy.
Alright, so that's it for players. Reinforcements. Reinforcements is really good for the non-custom factions, basically. The reinforcement modules do not work for our custom factions. If you put down reinforcements and choose one of our custom factions as what you want spawned in, it's going to spawn in whatever faction our custom faction is built off of. So this doesn't work for, you know, like our deployment right now, but, you know, if you're doing a training and you're fighting like VDV or something, it'll work perfectly fine. So you'll create new LZ, which is basically where the vehicle is going to unload the troops. Create new RP, that's where the troops are going to go after they're unloaded, and then spawn units. Spawn in, say what the vehicle is going to be, what type of troops, how many of them, so on and so forth. Very, very simple system. If you want to dick around with it a little bit, you can go ahead and do so. But like I said, it does not work for custom factions, so just keep that in mind. What I will do for custom factions, if I'm in a situation where the blue 4 have really good eyes out in all directions, and it doesn't make sense for troops to be 100 meters off their nose because there would have been no way for them to get there without them being seen, then I'll truck in my own troops. I'll drop down a Ural, and then I'll drop down a squad separate and place them into the back of that truck, and then I'll tell that truck to drive into the AO, still generally outside of the fucking view of the infantry, preferably. If it skims through their sight line a little bit, that's fine. But I'm not going to just drive the truck straight at them. That's fucking retarded. We don't dismount our trucks in full view of the enemy, preferably. The enemy's not going to do it either. So I'll stop them short, pull them off behind some cover or concealment, unload the troops out of the back, and then run them in. So that gives you the explanation as to how did they get there. And then sometimes also Air is going to spot those trucks. Air will call to us and let us know, hey, you've got 3 times troop transports coming in from the west. You want us to swag them? Yes, no, whatever, so on and so forth. All right, so yeah, that's it for reinforcements. Respawn, don't do anything in there. Scenario flow, don't do anything in there. Spawn, the only thing we're going to use in here is the explosives. Like I said, for the IEDs, that's where our IEDs come from, at least the model of it. The actual IED itself comes from the IED modules, but the model of the IED comes from that. Spawn effect, that's where our flares come from, or even smoke. If we want the enemy to be dropping flares, then we'll use spawn effect. We'll drop red flares, white flares, whatever the fuck we want to use. If we want to say that the enemy has, a mortar tube in the area and they put out a smoke screen, like what we can have FHQ do, then we'll spawn smoke grenades. Or, also the fact that the AI is not really that great about deploying smoke when they're running through the open. Usually they're more prone to fucking deploy smoke inside of a goddamn building that they're in rather than out in the open. So we'll spawn smoke grenades for them to try and compensate for the fucking idiocy of the AI, and then we'll tell them where to maneuver thanks to that smoke. Submarine, we're not going to spawn. Trawler, not going to spawn. And Freedom and Liberty are not going to be spawned. TFAR, don't do anything in it. Zeus, add, remove, we use that fucking constantly. That is probably going to be one of your most clicked goddamn modules out of everything. Arsenal, we use that if we need to go change anything on the AI. I actually just realized a issue that we're going to have, and that is if you Arsenal AI right now, at least that I can see, there's no fucking import button like there is for the Bohemia Arsenal. So the code that we have worked up for the HVTs, as it sits right now, we have no way to put that on an AI as Zeus.
Oh, how funny. That's what, Sergeant, weren't we just talking about that last week?
So it's going to be a bit of a problem. We're going to have to figure something out for that, which I'm not too concerned about. But we used to have the ability, there was a button that would say import, and you could just import the fucking code for the Arsenal. Boom, your guy would magically appear. But it doesn't fucking work.
The import button's still available for an Eden. Basically, we can have Zeus do is basically load up, throw a guy down in Eden, load it up the SQF and save it as HVT for Sunday, and then he can just load it onto them. But it's a saved loadout instead of a code.
Or I can just have S4 put them in the template.
Yeah, the one.
So yeah, the The arsenal thing, though, I will still use that arsenal module for little things. You know, if I want a guy to have more ammo, or you know, if I want to change out his weapon system for whatever reason, so on. Just real simple shit, honestly. The one thing that is not gonna fly is, you know, like we had talked about in the Zeus meeting. You know, if we're going up against guys that don't have fucking AA, you don't get the creative fucking liberty of going into the arsenal and giving a guy an iglet just because you think, yeah, they should have AA here. No, that's not your choice to make. You know, if you think these guys should have fucking Titan launchers, I don't give a shit. It's not your choice to make. You don't get to alter the factions that S4 built for us. Those guys spent a fuck ton of time and work getting those factions where they were. Don't dick with them. Leave them as they are, unless there's a situation where, you know, hey, I've got fucking only one machine gunner for whatever reason in this position. I don't feel like fucking spawning another one, so I'm just going to throw a machine gun on this guy, or, you know, whatever. But basically, don't fuck with their loadouts. They were approved as they are. Hide Zeus, do not ever use. If you hide Zeus, you cannot be messaged on Blue Force. So do not ever fucking hide yourself. That's why we will stuff ourselves out in the middle of goddamn nowhere where nobody can see us back behind Deflade, because we cannot hide ourselves. Hint we don't use. Promote to Zeus, we don't use. We talked about why we don't use that earlier. Remote control, you can use that module. Honestly, it's easier to just hold control and double left click. A hell of a lot faster. Switch side channel to Zeus, don't use. Switch unit, don't use. Zeus lightning bolt, I ever catch somebody using that, I'm gonna fucking flip unless it is used for a dramatic effect to add more lightning to a really bad thunderstorm. That is it. Any questions on any of the modules? No, good. Silence isn't a fucking option.
Sorry, I might have missed it there a second. Do we hide ourselves?
No.
No.
No, we do not.
Never, ever hide yourself.
Is that for a specific region?
Because you can't be messaged on Blue 4 if you're hidden.
Oh.
No one can send you reinsert messages or.
It basically, if you hide yourself, then you become part of the civilian faction.
Okay.
And if you're civilian, Blue 4 can't message you. So yeah.
Right. Okay.
Don't ever hide yourself.
And then
go ahead.
I was gonna say I had another separate question, but if you had some.
Nope. Go ahead.
The arsenal, right? It's essentially the same thing as double clicking on an entity and then going into the arsenal that way, right? Or is there actual functional difference between the two?
No, it's just regular arsenal.
Okay.
When you double click on someone and hit the red arsenal button, you can't do that on people you haven't put down.
Yes, that is true.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on a second. So top, you put down everybody in the top, right? So I double click on someone, go to arsenal.
Yep, it'll just kick you out of the double click.
Oh, look at that. Okay, but I can change it if I use the.
Yeah, if you use the module. Yep.
Oh, okay, I see.
All right, so if you guys don't have any questions on the modules, we already talked the other night about, you know, in terms of engagement and expectations and stuff like that, in terms of when you're allowed to engage and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go over that again. So what we're going to do now is each of you are going to pick an AO somewhere on this map and build a mission for a task force size element. That includes building any fortifications you see fit, so on. I'm not going to necessarily freak out about it being too big or something like that. Try and keep it within fucking reason. You know, don't build an entire goddamn fob. But you can build up some fortifications, some roadblocks, stuff like that. And I want to see basically what you think is enough, at least initially, to pose a challenge to a task force size element. You guys can pick whatever fucking map, whatever area you want on the map. Go ahead and start building, and if you have questions while you're building, obviously ask while you're building that, and then once you're done, let me know, and I'll take a look at them, critique them. We'll talk about, you know, troop placement and why things are done a certain way, so on and so forth. All right.
Go to that.
All right, so go ahead and get building. Once you have selected an AO, go ahead and use the fucking markers modules and just put down an objective marker in your AO so I can see it on the map where it's at. And yeah, go ahead and start building. While you guys are doing that, I'm gonna go take a piss real quick, and I'll let you know when I'm back. So if you have any questions, you can ask then. All right.
Great, appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Where you
I will
going?
be right back. I'm
I was
gonna,
gonna
as I
go
said,
down
go take a
to
piss real quick
Solenco.
and refresh my coffee.
What is that?
And
It's
yeah, we'll see
2107,
how these
that airfield.
guys do.
Lacana.
What's that? So yeah, Silicana.
Yep.
Silicana?
Have fun, brother.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, sorry about that, guys. I am back. And apologies for not really being able to chat too much. Obviously, I was doing quite a bit of talking there for the first little while. And what the hell's going on? My damn interface is completely locked up now? Motherfucker. I might have to fucking restart ArmA here. Hey, Doba, what's going on, bud? Alright, I am back, but my ArmA decided to freeze up, so I'm gonna have to restart here real quick.
Okay.
Alright, guys, give me just a minute here, and I will be right back yet again. Alright. So we'll hop back in here, get back into Zeus. And hopefully you guys like the new flash screens and the new buttons down below and stuff. That's what I was working on this morning, was new starting soon screen and BRB and ending and all the new buttons and shit down below. Now that I'm aware that there's that fucking timeout thing for TFAR, I really, really want that. Okay, who stole the fucking OSET airfield? When I was fucking trying to pull off the OSET. Actually, I don't see anything set up. They might just be working in the town there. Oh, there we go. I see a roadblock out there. Alright, I'm gonna teleport us into the same area so I can actually talk to them. Alright, now the thing I'm gonna go over with you guys while you're building here is radios. So as I told you earlier, you know, you've got your short range on 3-1 and whatever the platoon net is for the platoon that you're Zeusing for, and then 3-2 is your long range. Always, always, always have your long range with 3-2 on it, because that is how your secondary areas operators are going to talk to you, is via 3-2 on the long range radio. Because when you're remote controlling someone, short range radios don't retain their frequency, but long range radio, you can still talk through it. So if you're, you know, sitting in the Zeus interface and I'm remote controlling someone, I can still talk to you on 3-2 on the long range. So that's how we talk back and forth while guys are remote controlling. So that part is incredibly vital when it comes to cleaning up. When you start getting rid of dead bodies and shit, you have to make sure that no one is remote controlling. Because if you remote control, or sorry, if you delete bodies from a group that someone is remote controlling an AI in, it will fucking like destroy the server and drop it down to 0 FPS. Or at least it did. I don't know if it's still a fucking issue, but we're not taking that chance. So anytime before you clean up any bodies, you have to hit 3-2. Tell your two guys, get out of remote control. Let me know once you're out. Once both of them are out, then you can clean up bodies and they can go back to business as usual, okay?
Roger that. I need to work on my long range radio. I think my the add-on's messed up. But I'll look at that after I finish this up here.
Same add-on that handles your long-range radio handles your short-range radio, so I highly doubt the add-on itself is messed up.
No, not the add-on. The key. The keybind is messed up.
Okay.
At least it was when I did what was it, Task Force Bravo. It wasn't. I was queuing up on my side, but no one heard me. So.
Are you queuing up on the right fucking channel?
Yeah, 5-0.
Hey now, you fucking degenerates. You start no fan fiction shit in my chat. Alright, so who's working down here in Celicano?
That's all.
Alright.
Did you have something for me already, or?
No, I was just curious as to who was snaking the fucking OSET Day 4 area.
Oh, is that where that is? It's been
Yep.
so long. It's been a year now since I've gone back. I've been part of that.
Oh yeah. I'm like, oh okay, he's gonna go for the classic OSIT build. I'm like, oh, okay, golf clap.
Yeah, I don't remember this at all.
And while these guys are building, this is kind of an opportunity for you guys in chat. I don't know if any of you guys had questions while I was explaining stuff, but this is an opportunity for you guys, if you have any questions about some of the stuff I was talking about and so on. This is the time for you guys to be able to ask it, and hopefully I'm able to answer it for you if you do have any questions related to Zeus or how you would do certain things and so on. I don't like that. And I don't really like that much either. I guess it's alright. It is technically capable to get a weapon system like this up here.
What was the one that you liked? The main HQ building? The one that you recommend? HQ
Oh, the
large.
composition? That is going to be under groups empty, military, HQ large, military compound.
Oh, not the. Okay, I was using main headquarters. Nice.
There were a couple earlier. They pertain mostly to handling the mission. Got to answer pretty well. Okay, cool. Zeus makes your head hurt. I like to watch it, but it's too complicated. It's very overwhelming at first, because there's just so many buttons, or so many modules, so many units, just so much different shit that you can do. And still, even after years of doing it, I still learn new shit that can be done, or especially considering mods are constantly changing and being updated. It's pretty difficult to completely stay on top of it and know 100% how everything works, because like I said, it's constantly changing and evolving. So it's one of those. It is a skill. It is a diminishing skill in the sense of your capabilities and effectiveness. It's not a diminishing skill so much in a sense of the attitude and the mindset of being a good Zeus, and knowing when you need to pressure them, when you need to back off, so on and so forth, and really knowing why you're there. That's not really something that you lose, but your effectiveness and your capability based upon your knowledge of the modules, what they do, the units, and so on, that can diminish over time. What's the ideal unit to player ratio? There is none. Different elements are able to take on different amounts of units. You know, whether that be at a squad size level. Say again?
Like initial task force before any reinforcements?
Yeah. Yep.
Happy.
So, you know, different squad size elements can take on different amounts of guys. Some squads can take on a fucking platoon. Some squads can take on a company. Same thing for an entire task force level of, 60 plus guys. One task force may be able to take on a battalion worth of fucking infantry and 15 armor pieces. One task force might be able to take on, 2 platoons and 3 pieces of armor. But that's why we listen to Platoon Net. And you start to learn over time who's strong in certain areas, who's weaker in other areas, where you can push them, where you need to back off of them, so on and so forth, like I was just talking about. But in terms of like a set number of like 5-to-1 ratio, it doesn't exist. And then there's also times where task forces will completely surprise us. We'll put down fucking 250 troops and be like, yeah, this will be enough to hold them off for 30 minutes. 10 minutes later, they're 200 yards past all of them, and you're scrambling to get shit set up to just give them shit to shoot at, because they were on it that night and they just steamrolled everything you put down. That happens. Really, if there was any, I guess, general guideline I would give in terms of units and stuff like that, whatever you think is enough, add more. Anytime you think, yeah, that's enough, add more. Obviously, if frames and performance starts becoming an issue, you don't want to keep adding more shit. But if you think, yeah, 200 is going to be enough, guys, add more, because it's not. Every time you get into Zeus, ADD kicks to the left and dicking around instead of making something productive. Yeah. Well, that's why generally, if I'm building a mission for anything really, I'll generally be in the server 2, maybe even 3 hours ahead of when they're actually going to start loading in. I take a long time to build a mission. I can build a mission very quickly, but I like to take my time. I like to look at every single little fucking garrison trooper and make sure he's in the right spot, make sure he's looking the right direction. I don't care if he catches a bullet to the head in the first fucking 2 seconds of an engagement. I want that guy who's looking at his vectors to be, looking at that guy through the window and realize that that guy is looking at me. He doesn't have his back to the fucking window, holding security inward. He's holding security outward. Little shit like that most people probably don't notice, but I do. When I'm on the ground and I'm looking at guys that are garrisoned and they have their back to me, or they're I can see that they're not facing the door, or just they're looking into the corner, just little shit like that. I notice stuff like that, and it's annoying for me because I take the time to go through and make sure people don't see that kind of shit. Let's see what they get down. Live multitasking, RTS, getting important things. Yeah, thankfully, I mean, that's always going to be a difficulty. That's one of the reasons that we now have multiple Zeus operators. I've Zeused for entire task forces by myself. Many people have. I mean, Drum Zeus for entire task force for 6 fucking months, or maybe a little bit longer. It's not easy to do. It's a difficult fucking thing to do by yourself. And that's one of the big reasons that I pushed to have 3 Zeus operators per task force, was so that that primary Zeus operator didn't have to multitask so much. They don't have to remote control units all the time. They can focus on that little stuff of, you know, spawning in more units, but also making sure civilians aren't running around, making sure that the mortars get dismounted. You know, all that little shit that's easy to slip your mind when you're doing 10 different things and you're also juggling fucking chainsaws at the same time. So having those other 2 Zeus operators in there really, really, really makes the fucking job easier. But even then, I'll still end up forgetting shit. Like, it happens. It's never gonna be, oh, this is the fix to your problem. You're still gonna forget shit. You're still gonna fuck things up. It just makes it less frequent, I guess. People definitely have issues with solo Zeusing when it comes to fun ops and May drops. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. You're not going to, you know, you're not going to hop in with like a few weeks of Zeus experience and Zeus solo for an entire fucking task force. They're just going to run you over. Plain and simple. They will run you the fuck over. It takes time to really know how to do things quickly and efficiently and know how to put pressure on a task force when you're by yourself.
Hey, Top.
Yep.
For like command posts and the like, the HQ kind of looking building. I remember you and Ben were saying that there's a way to like lift it up so that the trees aren't in it. But it seems like there's only like defaults. It almost like snaps up to almost to the point where it's too high. Is there a way to just incrementally,
Nope.
Increase the height, or is it just the 2 settings?
Nope, not in Zeus. You just got to kind of dick around with it and see if you can get it, you know, right on that threshold. In Eden, obviously, you can, you know, do fine controls, but in Zeus, yeah, it's like fucking putting up trim with a goddamn sledgehammer.
Right. So if we can't do it, just find another spot.
Yep.
Or get rid of it.
Yep, just find a different spot to put it in. Did they fix a bug when you place vehicles on uneven terrain? They glitch out and explode? No. Still does it sometimes. Oh yeah, definitely fucking irritating. The other one that's always fun, and I talked about this on the Zeus tips and tricks video that I just did the other day. When you're trying to put a vehicle underneath a cami net and you move the vehicle under it and it destroys the fucking cami net like every time, it can be annoying. So just place the vehicle where you want it and then drag the cami net over top of it. Makes your life a hell of a lot easier. Not really a fan of this roadblock here. You know, this is the kind of stuff that, and I'll bring this up to him, you know, when we talk about the final thing, but this is the kind of stuff that I mean when I say, you know, check and see where your stuff is placed and so on. I'll come in and look at the sight lines of my bunkers. Does it make sense for this little bunker to be here? Does this thing really serve a purpose? Does it have sight lines well enough to justify it being here? Absolutely not. So if I would have placed this composition down, I would come into this bunker, look and see, yeah, this ain't gonna work. Granted, I wouldn't have put it here because I would have seen this bit of deflate here. I would put it up here on the high ground, so you have good long fucking sight lines out there. And I would have done a little bit beefier of a roadblock. But yeah, that kind of stuff is what I mean by, you know, think logically when you're placing stuff, not just your units, but also your objects. Does it make sense for that to be there? You have to embody the role of the enemy commander. You know, at the end of the day, we're the bad guy, and we're trying to win. You know, maybe not trying as hard as we possibly could, but we're trying to win. So why am I going to purposely put my guys at a disadvantage? I'm not. I wouldn't want any of my guys from the 506 fucking holding this position. I would tell them to fucking move up to that rock wall. That rock wall is a better position than this bunker. Despite this having better cover, you have better security up here. So I wouldn't set this up here. Like I said, I would move it up here to the high ground. Now, like with this position here, I wouldn't set this up facing this direction. This field isn't a bad choice, but I would turn it 90 degrees and have the entrance out here on this road so that it makes sense for this entry point right here. Because as it sits right now, you have to come off-road from this road or bust through a fucking fence to get to this entry point. So it doesn't make any sense for this to be here facing this way. As where you put it over here, it's right off the road. There's plenty of open space here. Obviously, you're going to want to make sure the rock walls aren't causing any fucking problems or anything. But you turn it roughly 90 degrees, get it facing over towards the road, makes a little bit more sense. Alright, let's bounce over and check out Ven's stuff. Okay, so go to the outskirts of the AO first. Got a patrol coming up here along the spine. That's not bad. That's, you know, a decent area to have a patrol up across this high ground like this. That's pretty good. Is that something he's setting up, or is that part of the map? I think that's probably part of the map, but that's actually a really good position. I would make use of this right here for sure, if that is part of the map. If it's not, if that's something he placed, that's pretty good.
Move the building, right? Put a tank over
what's
it,
this up here?
and then move the building back after you delete
A
the
little Overwatch position, I guess. This is decent. I don't disagree with the idea of having an Overwatch position here, but I would probably pull it back into these trees a little bit, simply to make it blend in a little bit more. And to be honest, I would probably make this a vehicle Overwatch position. I would have something like a BTR or a BMP, or even possibly a MBT sitting up here, because look at these sight lines. They're beautiful fucking sight lines across this valley. It's a great position to have a vehicle in an Overwatch setting. So you can, I mean, you have almost a full 180 degrees of engagement from this one spot. A BMP2 sitting up here would be pretty goddamn devastating to anything down in that valley. That's what I would set up here. Alright, we already talked about this. Like I said, this is, you know, it's a heavy fucking weapon system with all up ladders, but, you know, it's fine. This one, not so much. Putting the ZU up here, how are you getting it up there? You having guys completely dismantle this fucking thing piece by piece and carry it up here and reassemble it like Legos. It doesn't really make sense for this thing to be up here. This thing should not be sitting here in the center protecting. If anything, I would have it up here on this high ground overwatching this valley. So if any fucking air comes into this valley, you can hit it. I would have another one, you know, sitting over on, say, this hilltop or even potentially this hilltop here. I would have another one sitting over here. So like I talked about in, again, that tips and tricks video I did the other day, you don't put AA in the center of your fucking area that you're trying to protect. You put up a perimeter of AA. It doesn't make any sense to have it right here in the center.
Hey, Top, I think I'm ready.
If you have it here, then the stuff is already on top of you by time it, you know, by time it can engage.
Hold on. I just noticed a building that I do not like.
Yeah, plus you have trees and, you know, buildings and stuff like that that block your line of sight. Yeah, you could say that it airlifted it on there. I mean, that would work, but like I said, the overall problem isn't necessarily the logistics of getting it up there. It's the, you know, does it make sense to be up there? And the answer is no. So that's why, you know, you set up a perimeter. You know, you have this nice fucking valley here, all this high ground, and pretty much a full 360. I would have AA pieces on all of these high points, basically. Patrol out here ain't bad. Couple of guys garrisoning in these buildings. It's alright. I wouldn't have this guy in this little shack over here. Doesn't really make sense. I would probably pull him out and these two guys out here and have them just standing here like they're bullshitting. The two guys in the building, you know, they're doing whatever they're doing. Patrol out here. Alright. Kind of a small patrol pattern. This BMP is useless here. Its sight lines are nil. Another thing you need to do, you know, just like with bunkers, when you place down a vehicle, you need to look at its sight lines, see what it can and cannot engage. And this thing is completely useless here. This position, decent. I would have picked a little bit flatter ground probably for that. I would have probably built this right here, just so it's flat ground and the M walls don't look all stupid and shit. Yeah, you could have turned it, had the entrance right here and had the L going like this right here.
Alright, Top, it's ready.
Alright. So, we're going to start on basically the outskirts of your AO. So we're going to go with that patrol over on the east end, moving by the radio tower and the red Connex boxes. That patrol's not bad. I like how you got them going up on the high ground there by the windmills. I would have made use of that pre-placed position right there at the bridge. That's a pretty commanding position right there along the fucking roadway. You've got elevation and so on that you can use there. Pretty good sight lines. So I would have had a squad or so garrisoned within those buildings and up on top and stuff like that. Possibly even set up a small HESCO next to the M walls of the tall tower and park a BTR or something right there, or more likely a GAZ with a PK and an AGS. There is a bit of a deterrent for anything coming across that bridge. The patrol, like I said, that's decent. I would leave that there, but I would have
Taking use of that. I didn't even see that actually.
yeah, I would have used that position. Moving on from there, the small bunker you have up on the northwest hill, kind of overwatching the backside of the like refinery area or whatever. That's not a bad position in terms of overwatch. If I were to do a bunker like that, I would pull it back up towards the trees to, you know, give it a little bit more concealment. However, looking at this area, I wouldn't put a bunker there for infantry. I would put a vehicle emplacement up there. If you pull back towards the trees and look out basically southeast, like like pretty much right by where those rocks are, just behind those rocks, behind that bunker. If you were to place a BMP2 in that position with HESCOs in front of it and angled on the sides of it, that thing would be absolutely devastating up there. If you look out to the south-southeast from just at the edge of the tree line, the sight lines across that valley are fucking gorgeous for a long-range weapon system. So yeah, I would have a BMP2 sitting up in that position, tucked in between those trees, probably put a cami net over top of it, and then, yeah, that thing would fucking wreak havoc up there. Moving on from there, pushing down into the actual refinery area itself. So actually didn't clock this roadblock that you had set up before. So this roadblock on the east end, just outside of the refinery, when you place down positions like this, whether it be bunkers or vehicle positions, the first thing you should be doing after you make sure that the shit's not floating is get down in there, see what their sight lines are. Okay, so the bunker on, I guess, would be kind of the north side of the road. He's got a bush blocking his entire 1 o'clock. He can only see from basically noon to 10 o'clock. And even then, he's looking at a hill at that noon to 10 o'clock. That gun, that dishcum, is completely fucking useless. Or that cord. The BMP, pretty much the same story. He's staring at a hill. The only thing he can shoot at is the fucking hilltops off to, his 1, 2 o'clock, fucking 3 clicks away. BMP is completely wasted there. He has no sight lines. So
put it right in the middle of the fucking valley.
Yeah. So you, especially with vehicles, you want good long fucking sight lines for vehicles. You don't want those things staring at the side of a hill or anything. Moving into the actual refinery itself, the ZU on top of the oil fucking silo, whatever you want to call it. It's okay. It doesn't make a ton of sense unless you're going to have guys disassemble a thing piece by piece and Lego it back together at the top of that roof. Those are a big fucking weapon system. Like one of the guys in my chat mentioned, you could kind of play it off that they airlifted it in there, which is fine. But what doesn't make sense is having a very short range AA system in the center of your AO. By the time that thing is able to engage, whatever's engaging this fucking refinery area has already gotten rounds off. It's completely useless there. When you set up AA, it needs to be set up in a net or a perimeter outside of your AO. So look at all this high ground that you have all the way around this valley. These hilltops to the north, the hilltops especially out to the southeast and southwest. Those are prime positions for AA, whether it be ZU cannons, fucking Zeus, fucking Tunguska, Igla chairs, so on. So you want to put your AA out there on the perimeter. You don't want it in the center of your AO. The couple of buildings on the south side of the refinery, those are good. I would say the one guy that's in the little fucking corrugated steel shack, doesn't really make sense for him to be in that shack unless he's taking a dump or something. I would pull him out of that shack and pull the 2 guys out of the partially destroyed building and have the 3 of them just kind of stand there bullshitting with each other or whatever. Just so it doesn't seem goofy that one guy's hanging out in a corrugated shack by himself. The patrols that are out there, they're good. The basic perimeter patrols, nothing really wrong with those. In terms of the guys that you have garrisoned in the actual refinery itself, there's a few guys in throughout there that it doesn't make sense for them to be looking the direction they're looking. Like the one guy that's just staring at a blue Connex box. Why? Is he taking a manifest of it? What's he doing? Is he holding security? So on. There's, like I said, a few guys throughout here where it really doesn't make sense for them to be looking the way that they're looking, so you need to pay attention to that. The other ZU gun that you got sitting in the center over here in like the northwest corner, kind of, it doesn't make sense to be there. Look, what's his sight lines? He's at the lowest point of the entire valley. Anything he tries to engage, his sight lines are constantly going to be interrupted by his own buildings and shit. He's useless there. The guy on the rooftop of the quote-unquote barracks type building, why is he up there? Is he inspecting the, sheet roof, or is he just trying to get some fresh air? Why is he up in that position? I would move him, say over to
Inside, yeah. I didn't
well, not
even see his
necessarily
ass.
inside, but that tan building to the northwest there with the fucking fire escape. Put him up on that fire escape, or put him on the short part of the roof there, because you can get onto that short roof there. Set him up there. That makes sense. He can access that. It makes sense for him to be up on that firewalk, or fucking, yeah, fire escape, holding security, so on. Fine, makes sense. The individual guys in the buildings, that's fine. Like the guy sitting in the garage, it's all right. But again, what's he doing? The compound that you got built up here to the northwest, the compound itself is decent. That BMP that's sitting next to it, completely useless. It can't engage anything. The actual makeup of the compound is good. Where guys are garrisoned and stuff is good. But the position of the compound itself, not so good. With stuff like this, especially with M-walls, I tend to favor flat ground. If you look at the area just to the southeast of it, basically directly across the street from the refinery, next to those two orange roof buildings, the 2-story and the 1-story, you could place the entrance of that compound where it opens up out into the street, and the L will turn and basically go westward, and it should fit pretty well in that little spot there. And actually, hold on, I'll add this stuff to Zeus and move it over there so you can see what I'm actually talking about here.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I got it. It was just, I thought about putting it there, just all the freaking gray stone walls.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where put it over there, see if it fucking works. If not, then fucking move it. It's not that big of a deal. Of course, it's gonna fucking lag out and take forever to fucking move. Yeah, that's the basic area where I was talking about. And then, like I said, if you have the entrance pointed out there at the road, then it makes sense to have an entrance there. You drive straight in off the road into that entrance. If it's a few feet back off the road, that's fine. But it doesn't really make that much sense to have an entry point like that sitting up on a hill. And then, like I said, the BMP that's sitting up there, that thing isn't doing any good to anyone. I would have that sitting on the hill. Well, no, I would put it directly across from where it is to the direct south, up on that hill where those little rock walls and shit are, just in front of that little building, looking out to the northeast. And then you have overlapping fields of fire with 2 BMPs with amazing fucking sight lines. Yeah, exactly, right there. And then face it out to like the direct east, basically. And now, dude, that's, if you have 2 guys in there and each guy is controlling a BMP, that's a pretty shitty situation to be in, to be caught in a crossfire between 2 BMPs with damn good sight lines across the entire valley. That's pretty fucking scary. Other than that, that's decent. This would probably, with the BMPs now in the positions they're in, and then moving the other BMP down there at that roadblock to a more favorable position, putting some ZU cannons in some positions with Overwatch where even they can potentially engage. The BTRs are fine where they are. They would obviously come out and react once the engagement starts. I would say overall it's decent. The main thing you need to focus on, though, is A, does it make sense for it to be there, and B, what are my sight lines? Is that weapon system effective in that position? If not, then you need to fucking move. Especially the vehicles. You got to remember the vehicles; those things can engage from 2-3 fucking kilometers away. Take advantage of that shit. At the end of the day, we're the bad guy. We want to fucking murder them. We're not going to purposely put ourselves at a disadvantage by stuffing one of our vehicles behind a hill where it can't do anything. So, you know, make better use of your surroundings, basically. Take advantage of those sight lines, take advantage of the longer engagement ranges of the weapon systems that you have and so on. And then say the task force came in from the east and assaulted this compound east to west and moved right down the, you know, the length of the refinery area or whatever the fuck it is. Where are you going to bring reinforcements in from?
I'm sorry, my son just came through. What was that?
If the task force moves into this area of the ground element and clears this valley basically from east to west, and they move through this refinery east to west, where are you going to bring your reinforcements in from?
Over the ridgeline to the north, right, to the northwest, there's a good ridgeline. Also, where that you wanted to set that BMP up, there's a saddle back there. We can spawn stuff in and have it come down there.
All right.
Basically anywhere but the freaking southeast, across that giant open fucking field.
Right. What about vehicles?
Vehicles probably going to be in the town to the northwest, right along the MSR, because they can just roll down along with any motorized reinforcements.
Mm-hmm.
Right back there, they're behind Deflate and building cover as well, so very easy to send them that way.
What I would do in terms of foot mobiles, yes, absolutely. Bring them over that north ridge. It's going to have elevation. That's going to make for some interesting gunfights. Vehicles, I would not bring in down either the MSR or the ASR. It's too obvious. It's also too open. Once they get into engagement range, by time you're really able to start firing and start laying down some fucking hate, there's going to be a Moz or a Maverick or a fucking Hellfire hitting you because you're exposed out there. There's nowhere really for you to go. But if you go just west-southwest, you'll see that little OSR there that has a leads up to this long set of buildings, like two look like fucking ghetto condos. See where I'm talking about? I'll put an objective marker down on it.
Eyes up. Yeah.
Okay. So if we were to...
Yeah, that was the saddle I was talking about.
Well, if we were to bring a vehicle in there, and then I'll basically show you here what I would do. Grab one of these fucking BTRs. So if... See that BTR that I just placed down?
Yep.
So rather than moving it down the roadway here, and then ending up out on that fucking MSR, what I would do, come right across the side of this hilltop, because it's not too fucking steep right here. It's actually fairly calm in terms of, yeah. So I would bring it right along this fucking hilltop over here. And then by time I'm up into here, or especially here, I have really good fucking sight lines down into that area.
You're far enough away to be still within
shot
range for Moz.
And you could even potentially move it down farther to the right here and have even better sight lines, so on. But you're at a decent enough standoff distance where, you know, if they got a Jav, yeah, Jav's gonna fuck you. A Moz, that's far enough out, that's gonna be a pretty rough shot to make with a Moz. Obviously, error is still gonna be a threat, but in terms of, you know, your vehicle safety, you're going to be sitting pretty good there, and you have sight lines down into that position much better than what you would have sitting down on the road.
Yep. And if you do take a Moz and they miss, you have buildings and rock cover to move around in.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. I'm really not used to Zeusing with air assets, and I have to start planning my air anti-air placements accordingly. That's why I always put them in the center of the compound, because there's never any fucking air to engage them, so they're always going to be anti-infantry. So yeah, I gotta.
Well, they can still be anti-infantry, and they're going to be more effective up on high ground than what they're going to be down in the center of the valley. So no matter what, you know, what target you're engaging, it's going to be more effective at elevation and at range. Especially, you know, like a ZU cannon, you put a ZU up on one of these fucking hilltops, that's gonna be a pretty long shot to make, even with the fucking DMR. As where he's got a goddamn autocannon. He can reach your ass pretty easily. Yeah, those things that I pointed out, that's the stuff that, you know, I notice is flying through here. So the main thing I would work on, like I said, just paying attention to where guys are looking, what their sight lines are, whether or not they're effective in that position or not, and if they're not, move them to a position where they will be effective.
Copy.
O'Halloran, how you doing?
I could probably go all night, but I mean, if you have other things to do, you can judge me on what I have.
Well, let's see here. All right, so I'm going to start up at the little compound that we always use for first engagement for OSUT out to the west-southwest there. Why isn't that guy on the cord?
Because actually I am having trouble attaching people to the cords without it falling over. So I was just
they weeble wobble like a motherfucker. You just got to deal with it.
There, okay. This is the one I just started working on.
Yeah, they'll wobble around even when you remote control it and try and turn in the thing. It'll still wobble around.
Okay. But
all right. In terms of placement, looks good. Makes sense. Guys are holding outer security. That's fine. All right, let's move over to the town area here. Groups garrisoned in the town are looking all right. There's a few guys that are kind of individual there. Where's the driver for that GAZ that the PK gunner's standing next to?
I don't think I put one down there.
I would grab one of the guys that's just an individual in a building and drag him over there as a driver for that vehicle. So that if you want to make use of that truck, you could throw him in as a driver and then throw the PK in there as a gunner, and he'll pop up through the hatch and put in work. That the guys that are garrisoned are fairly decent. You've got, you know, some guys that are inside of buildings with their back to the entry point. That's, you know, shit you got to go through and look at. You don't really want that, especially when there's only one entry point into the building, so it's not like he's securing another entry. And guys looking out the windows, that's all right.
Sorry, which one were you talking about with the back to the wall?
Let's see. It is going to be southwest corner of the fucking town. Basically 3 doors down from the little church up on the hill and the little like shack offshoot thing from the 2-story with the orange roof and blue trim on the windows. Next to the, what is that, father and child blue fucking circle sign.
I'll find it.
An objective marker on the building.
Oh, okay. So he has his back. I see what you're saying. His back's to the wall. Okay. Is that the one that you were looking at?
Yep. Then I'm going to move this objective marker over. So this building here, guy that's inside of this building, he's semi-facing the door, but really he's looking out a window that has about, I don't know, a 6-inch gap in the shutter. He's not really securing much because he can't see dick. So I would have him, you know, either deep in the room looking out the door, or, you know, upstairs looking out a window or something like that, or even just move him to the right to, yeah, the fully open window. Makes a little bit more sense. Yep.
Like a little bit more in the room. Okay.
The BTR being in the center of the town, not a big fan of that. Motorized and armor assets, basically mechanized armor. Urban areas are hell. That is the last place they ever want to be, is an urban area.
Well, so my idea here, right, is that Solanco, and then I was also going to work on Ferrez here in a second. These are OPFOR towns. Like, this is where the families are and the like. It's just the reserves.
Yeah, I mean that's fine, but you still wouldn't want your BTR in town. You would have that thing holding security outside of town. Even if that's your, quote unquote base camp where you're going to be sleeping, you're going to have that thing outside on the perimeter holding security. Guys would have to walk down into the town.
And yeah, I mean, so again, I hadn't finished. If you can look at your map, there are those outposts to the northwest, north, northeast, and north-northeast.
Mm-hmm.
So they were going to have armor on them as well.
Yep.
I just hadn't gotten to those points yet, but yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to use that essentially as a reserve element.
Yeah, that like I said, it's fine, but I wouldn't put it right in the center of town. I would have it just outside of the town. The patrol is fine, even though the waypoints are way up in the air. They'll follow them, so that's fine.
That's another question I had. So, is that something that you have to adjust the altitude?
No, it generally is not going to matter. Usually, they will follow them fine. Sometimes it will cause issues. You just gotta, pay attention to it. The compound you got here, right next to the airfield, is okay. There's a couple of boxes that you missed deleting there. Other than that, looks all right. One guy is on the barracks building, second floor balcony, kneeled looking at the door. I'm not sure if he's inspecting the molding or what he's doing to the door there.
There we go.
The PK gunner on the back side of the bunker. Not sure what he's doing knelt back there.
Yeah, right. So they're actually on each one of those. And again, it's the idea of like the reserves. So there's the two in the front, and then if they need them, they would call them forward.
Well, think about how we do it. When we engage something, what's generally the first thing that we want to engage? Our heaviest weapon system.
Right.
So the PK gunner is going to be the guy sitting in the bunker waiting for somebody to show up because they want that motherfucker opening up before anybody else. If anybody's going to be sitting in, a quote-unquote reserve position or a backup position, it's going to be, dipshit with his AK-47 that costs $5 from China.
Right, okay.
The guy on the second floor little landing of the cargo tower, just in front of the barracks building, he's staring at an M wall. He's not securing anything in that position. I like the guys out front. I personally wouldn't go with two RPG gunners out there just because it looks goofy that you got twins out front on security. But that's just personal preference. It's not a huge deal or anything. And then the cord up top needs to be manned, but we already talked about that. It is what it is. You got to keep trying until you get the fucker to stand up straight. I would populate the airfield a little bit. I'm assuming you probably had plans to do that. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Moving directly north from there, I was actually talking to the stream about this. So this first checkpoint you have directly north down the road from the airfield. I want you to zoom in there and get inside that bunker and look at the sight lines of anybody that would be manning that bunker.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
So that position is completely ineffective. You're staring downslope into little tiny ditch, basically. What I would do is take that entire position and move it, roughly 75 meters further north up by that rock wall where it has high ground. And then you have great sight lines out to the north, pretty much that entire northern sector.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I just didn't get down far enough.
Yeah. The next one over west of that, not too bad of a position. You got decent sight lines. Luckily the elevation is a little bit further out there. And then you have the elevation even further beyond that, where if anything comes down over that little hill, it's going to be completely exposed on that downslope of that. So this is a decent position. I would have set something up with a little bit of elevation, maybe some of those cargo towers, and maybe rearranged a little bit, purely because I don't like doing multiple cookie cutter approaches to the same position. Even if I'm going to use the same roadblock, I'll reverse it and put, what was on the right side on the left and vice versa, just to make it look a little bit different. So it's not like, okay, yep, here's get another bunker laid out the exact, our bunker position or roadblock or whatever laid out the exact same way. I already know where everything is. I know where everything goes. I move shit around just so, you know, it keeps guys on their toes. They don't know exactly what to expect.
Right, okay.
And other than that, decent. Obviously, you'd need, you know, a lot more troops in this area for a task force size. I'm not gonna bust your balls in terms of, you know, the amount of time it takes or anything like that. Different guys build at different speeds. You know, I was telling the stream, I like to be in the server 2 to 3 hours ahead of time to build my missions, because I like to take my time. I can build a mission very quickly, but I can't build an excellent mission quickly. I can build a mission quickly. I strive every single time to have guys come to me after a mission and say, that was fun as fuck. If I don't get that, then I failed. So I take my sweet ass time building a mission, meticulously going over every single little detail. I'll be done building a mission an hour before anybody even is starting to load into the server. But that gives me plenty of time to go through and look at every single little placement and make sure stuff is where I want it. If I want to add stuff, if I want to take stuff away, if there's, you know, suddenly a fucking server issue and we need to move over to one of the other fucking instances or whatever, I still have time to get shit done. So don't ever be, you know, discouraged that, hey, so-and-so knocks out a mission in 45 minutes and, well, fuck, it took me 2 hours to build my last mission. So what? As long as the guys have fun, that's all that fucking matters. So
absolutely top.
The main thing, I mean, really for both of you that I would focus on is really understand that we are the enemy commander. These guys are our troops. Place them in a way that you would want yourself to be placed. You know, would you want to be in a position where you're staring at the side of a wall? No, you wouldn't sit there and do that. You wouldn't, you know, have your back to a door, so on. If you were in a position where, you know, you're holding security and there's a hill 50 meters off your nose and that's all the sight line you have, you're not going to maintain that position. You're going to call up and be like, hey, I got to fucking move. Same thing in this. You know, obviously, they're not calling us, but we got to make that decision ourselves. So really pay attention to troop placement. Does it make sense for them to be there? What are their sight lines? So on and so forth. Now for this objective, we'll say that the task force comes in, we'll say from the east. Task force comes in to clear this objective from the east. Where are you going to bring in reinforcements from?
I was thinking from the town of, what is this now? Solenko.
Well, Solenko is in the AO.
Right. So I would have all my, all the troops down to begin with. I thought that was kind of the idea. That only.
Well, yeah, this is for the initial.
Well, so I was going to have Solenko and then Perez filled up, as well as the airfield. So I was thinking that you were saying that they would attack Perez, and then
yeah, they would.
I would do. Yeah, so they would attack Perez, and then I would have folks from Solenko move in from the west to the east.
Not going to be enough.
And if I needed more, then I can spawn them over the hill.
There you go. That's what I'm looking for. All right.
Okay.
You will not be able to place down enough units at the start of a mission to make a task force take 2 to 3 hours to clear that area. You can't. You can't have that many units down at the start of the mission. It'll be unplayable. We always are going to have to bring in reinforcements because we can't place down enough units for them to have a 2-hour mission. We just can't do it.
Okay.
So the mantra when it comes to Zeus is, you know, whenever you think it's enough, add more, because it's not enough. But obviously that has to be within reason. You know, if you have 350 fucking units down, you can't just keep adding to it. You have to wait for some shit to get killed clean up the map, and then bring in some more stuff. Now, if out there to Perez, you know, if it takes them a little while to clear that, and you bring in some reinforcements from Silicano, send guys over there, that's fine. And then as they're finishing clearing up Perez and potentially pushing towards Silicano, you can spawn stuff inside of Silicano back behind the buildings where they can't see it. You know, as long as they don't see it being spawned and it would make sense that it can possibly be there, that's fine. It's not going to make sense, you know, if they're in Perez and you spawn shit in the forest just to the southwest of Perez, and there's no way they could have gotten there without somebody seeing them move into that position. That wouldn't work. But if you put them on the backside of the buildings here, where guys don't have eyes on that position, okay, yeah, they came out of the fucking buildings, that's fine, that works. Or, you know, once they're in Silicano, like you said, backside of the fucking hill, they don't have eyes over there. They can't see you spawning that shit in, so they don't know where it came from. And Air knows, you know, hey, you're gonna see shit get spawned in. They're not going to be like, oh, what the fuck? I just seen a fucking BMP get spawned in. What the hell? Air sees it all the time. They're used to it.
Right. Okay.
All right. You guys got any questions on anything at this point?
I do, and it's kind of an embarrassing question, but and it's pretty basic. But I thought I would ask anyways. So this is all for primary Zeusers, right? Secondary Zeusers were just RCing, right? Unless told otherwise.
Yes, but primary Zeus still has to go through this shit. Or sorry, secondary Zeus still has to go through this shit. Normally, what would happen is, or what happened in the past, is I train the primary, and then the primary trains the secondary. But they still have to be trained in all the same shit. They still have to know what everything does, because if that primary can't make it for some reason, and that secondary needs to step up, he needs to know what the fuck he's doing.
Right. Okay. But okay, so but if the primary does show up and the secondary is there, the secondary can't change anything about the units, right? Like the way they're looking or anything like that. They can move them around.
Yeah.
But they can't give them orders, right? Unless they're seeing them. Okay.
Yep.
Or unless their primary Zeus gives them permission to, I guess.
Well, even then, sometimes it doesn't work. Right, that's the thing. Is you can sometimes you can issue them orders and they'll listen to you. Sometimes they won't. It's just kind of a crapshoot, which is why generally the secondaries, they're only there to remote control shit. That's all they're going to be doing.
That's what I was. Okay.
They'll also handle like tech inserts and shit like that. But yeah, they're pretty much just remote controlling the entire time.
Yeah, Roger. Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, Trooper taught me this overcast trick.
All right. Any other questions?
When do we start?
Fucking Ben's gonna be rolling with me as secondary on Saturday for the join op. You are going to be rolling with as a secondary for Bravo this weekend. So you guys will be getting your feet wet. Or yeah, next weekend. Sorry.
Oh, is Bravo not this weekend?
No, Alpha is this weekend.
All right. Charlie's this weekend, right?
No, Charlie's the same weekend as Bravo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought we had enough. Isn't this the fourth weekend? Oh no, it's the first.
The first.
Yeah.
Right.
Join op is this weekend. All right, then if you guys don't have any other questions, you are good to go, and yeah, we'll see how shit goes for you.
Sounds
great.
Good.
Thanks, Top. Appreciate your time.
Hey, yep.